on a mountain where the cold wind blows. We can talk about your drink and what you think. Hear anything go.
And we are back. And if you normally listen to the show and you recognize that music, you will know once again that for one, it's not the music that sounds like it was recorded in the back of a van with no windows. So it's not the Harwell Grice Band. You know, we're up on the mountain today. And we are here for our New Year's Eve, New Year's special, Woodshop Chronicles, Iraq Diaries, all rolled into frickin' one. We've got a plethora of guests up here today. And once again, my trusty British co-host, Simon. Simon, how was your Christmas?
It was fantastic. Absolutely outrageous.
Did you drink anything?
It's a case of what didn't I drink?
You know, I told my wife I wasn't gonna. She really encouraged me not to drink much less beer, So I'm heeding her advice, and I'm doing what she wants me to do. I'm not drinking any beer tonight.
Oh, so the crown is something new, Billy.
You're splitting hairs right there.
I believe I am.
This being our New Year's show, real quick, I just want to thank some of the people that have helped us out this year. For one, every one of our Patreon subscribers, we sincerely appreciate your time, effort, and money. Look, it might $3 a month, $5 a month, whatever it is, it really helps. Every little bit helps towards everything as far as equipment and time, and it really we really do appreciate it for everybody out there that does put in and listen. Hopefully after the New Year's we'll get some more of those 1 hour shows back up with Simon. It's just been the holidays, we really hadn't pushed it. I think maybe next week I might release a Caleb Flora lost show on our Patreon page.
It was lost for a bloody good reason.
It was a good reason it was lost. You're just going to laugh the entire time. Really, there's nothing of substance to take from that show at all. So for everybody out there that is on our Patreon, thank you so much. And tell people that's the best way this can get spread around is word of mouth. I can spend all day on the internet. I can put an ad in Times Square and 5 people might actually pay attention. But if everybody tells one person, that's how this spreads. And so we're having a lot of fun with this. So thank everybody. Wanted to thank, Rocky Mountain Burger Company and Brian for all he's done to help us out. Buddy's Barbecue, Brad Kennett there at Longwork Solutions. Give him a call. My stepdad, he's kind of meticulous like Amos here, and his yard is always immaculate. I always wonder how in the hell's he got the time to keep it up, and figured out Brad's the one who keeps his yard looking as good as it does. So I'm telling you, give Brad a call. Longwork Solutions, you can find him on Facebook. So for everybody that's made this year good, we really appreciate it. We got a great show for you here tonight. We're back with some familiar faces and some new faces. Before we get to it real quick though, Simon, our last show with Tyler Gotzi was phenomenal. We had such a good time over there. I'm really looking forward. If you listen to this, last chance donations, they're accepting them. Go in, go to 5 Points Music Sanctuary on the internet and donate $5, $10, whatever you can. Those are phenomenal.
Hell of a venue. I mean, it was for my first time there. And, I just got a really good feeling about the place. I'm looking forward to Crawford and Powers at the end of January. It's going to be an amazing show. But, I mean, just the venue itself, get in there. I mean, support it. Just a great guy, Tyler. And he's got a great venue. I can't say more about it.
Yeah, we're real excited about that show. I've talked to Jake and Ethan both, and actually sent them a picture from up here tonight. And so we're just waiting on you to come on back and do a show. I'd love to get them back on, hopefully before that show, so we can really talk about it, and not to increase ticket sales, because I have no doubt it'll probably be sold out.
Be sold out for
sure.
But
just to have a little fun, see how them boys have been doing their tour with Travis Trent and all that kind of stuff. So one story, and it was really hard because Tyler really stole the show. We didn't really get a chance to go back and forth or talk or anything like that. I wanted to tell one story, kind of not related at all to a podcast, but over there with Tyler just didn't seem like a proper place to do it. So this right here seems like the proper place.
Oh dear.
So I want to tell, and everybody's going to get a kick out of this. So half the people at this table, y'all know John Clements. He's been on a handful of these shows before. Good friend of ours, supports us. I was working a couple weeks ago, and I was on the docks. I drive a truck, and T-Force guy comes in, which used to be, UPS, and all of us truck drivers around here know each other. We all, go back and forth between companies and all this kind of stuff. And he was talking to me, got to talking to him about John. I was like, how y'all like it over there? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, I said, I can't believe John left, few more years, he probably would have had a pension. You know, he had an opportunity, but he apparently didn't care very much. And this guy, Simon, looks at me dead faced and tells me, concocts this entire story about John didn't quit. He lost his job because he got caught in the bathroom with another supervisor. And
What?
He let me run with this story so much. And I was on the way home. I was like, how can this be? Like, John? I'm like, and I thought about calling him. I was like, what do I do here? Like, I mean, it bombarded me. This guy he was so precise. And he was looking me dead in the face. And why would he have any reason to just tell me, a complete stranger, this concocted story about John getting caught with his male supervisor in the bathroom? And I was, John?
No.
I mean,
No.
So finally, I just texted John. I was like, John, right before I was getting ready to text him. And this guy somehow, I don't know how he did it. He found me on Facebook and sends me a message right as I'm in the middle of texting John. And he says, man, I just had to let you know we was messing with you. I was like, what are you talking about? He said it was just a concocted story. And I ended up calling John and asking him. He said these guys sit around and like 5 or 6 of them are on this phone all day long together. They got like a line they call in. And there's 7 or 8 drivers on it at all times. And they're all talking to each other. Sometimes one might be making a delivery and they're not part of the conversation, but the line is always there. He was like, he was probably sitting there talking to you, being the end of the day. There's probably 5 other guys on there egging him on, telling him exactly what to say to make him sound so precise. And it had me completely bamboozled. I was like, John.
I'm glad you didn't go live with it, Billy. It's all I can tell you.
I would have never went live with anything like that. I was just been, John, you could have told me after all these years. And I don't even want to think that that's something he would do, but I started trying to rationalize it in my mind. I was like, because I couldn't.
You got had by your own kind, Billy.
I got had by my own kind. I thought, my God, just the trucking world out there. So it's good to know people kind of got a sense of humor. Even John, he was like, man, them bastards. He said, they do this stuff all the time. And he said, because I started kind of wondering a little bit when he said, yeah, he's got this Filipino boy he goes on trips with. And John was like, yeah, it's always a Filipino boy or a Mexican boy or something. Like these guys are just twisted as hell. But
it's the same with the oil field. The same with military guys. All a bunch of hooligans.
It just for him to look me straight in the face and just be as cold dead as he was and tell me that.
That took some doing. That's impressive.
Why he would do it was beyond me. And so for the rest of the day, I had a conversation with my wife. I was like, Tara, you're not going to believe what I heard today.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so I wanted to tell that. So I thought that was kind of funny. Everybody on here had heard of John.
Is this a subliminal apology to John? Kind of in a roundabout way?
I think so.
I think it might be.
I think so because I'm sorry I doubted you for a second there, John. I didn't really doubt you. I couldn't rationalize anything in my mind. But anyway,
you got had.
Yeah. So let's get to it for today's show. Tonight we're sitting here with some people you might recognize and some others you might not. So these are guys that are part of the 1032nd, which was probably the most infamous military unit in all of the Iraq theater. We're going to get into a lot of the reasons that is so, and some of the reasons why the Army doesn't do things anymore the way they used to. But we're going to go around the room and introduce everybody. First, right here in the overalls to my left, even though you can't see him, is our buddy Pooh. Pooh,
how you doing, Billy?
We certainly appreciate you giving us your treasured time on this show tonight. I was amazed when you agreed to come on and join in this debauchery.
It's a pleasure, absolutely.
Well, we're going to have a lot of fun with it because there's some people in here, we hadn't seen it. We hadn't all probably been in the room together in quite some time. So we're up here at the Woodshop. So, of course, we got our buddy Amos.
Glad we could have another one up here. Can't wait to see where this leads to because they're all down winding roads. We never know where this might go.
I got a pretty good idea where it's going. A couple guys you've known from some of the other Iraq shows we've done. Casey Brannon, a.k.a. Special Ed, and Emmette Bird, the Birdman. I'm just saying that was his nickname in Iraq. What do you want me to do? Look, that's no disrespect to anybody. I'm just trying to lay the groundwork. Bird, Casey, welcome back.
Yes, sir.
Howdy. Good to be here at the Woodshed.
The Woodshop, Bird. Get it right. And
You're cut off.
Yeah. And, of course, the famous Doug Hurd.
Do it, Doug!
Howdy, glad to be here.
We have talked about Doug quite a bit on this show because he was somebody that took the reins of our platoon over there as an E5. And if you don't know military structure, E5s should be just holding hands of V4s pretty much and doing the bare minimum. But he kind of took charge of our platoon. And now, after these stories have come to light and stuff, we can finally have him and kind of hear his side of things, because he was the one in charge of our, what's the best way to put it? Our
He was in charge of the platoon for all intents and purposes.
our shenanigans.
Yeah, yeah.
How
The
much
buffer
how much
zone.
hell did you catch over there leading the particular guys that you had to lead?
Well, it really wasn't that bad. You know, at the time, you know, I could say that it was probably pretty bad, but I look back on those times now as I've gotten older, and it's been some time, that I really treasure those times that we had to spend together. It was almost like one big family, and it was a privilege to serve with you guys.
Why did you let Saglowski, Bricky, and myself borrow your truck in Virginia Beach that day? Do you remember that day?
Yeah, was that, if I remember correctly, I had to come get y'all at the gate when you came back, right? Because, yeah, okay, that's what I thought. Well, that may have been a mistake on my part, but it worked out okay at the end.
Do you remember the story that we gave you that night?
No, I don't remember the story that you gave me.
I'd say you all were lost somewhere in North Carolina, weren't you? Wasn't that the story? Or yeah, okay. I thought that's what the story was.
Man, you can't even get your story straight over these years.
We told him that we somehow got on a ferry because we were trying to go to an island somewhere, and so we were stuck on a ferry. Really, we were 3 sheets to the wind riding go-karts in Virginia Beach and watching Bricky run around the track and flip people off and wreck little kids.
No mercy.
Ricky's just misunderstood.
Yeah, that was just one of many occasions, either whether deployed or back at home, that I had to make adjustments to schedules due to
Well, we certainly
shenanigans.
appreciate it. And to be honest, we had, Simon, I know you're going to believe me when I say this. We had good intentions. With all intent purposes, our plan for the day was, I had really never spent any time in Virginia Beach. So I said I wanted to go see the ocean from Virginia Beach, because I've actually never seen it from there. I've been to Myrtle Beach 1,000, Redneck Riviera and everything. I wanted to see Virginia Beach, and I wanted to see the Navy Yard. I figured we got military IDs, we can go to the Navy Yard and go around. So we said we'll go out first as far as we can, and then we'll come back and then, make our way backwards. Well, we get to Virginia Beach, and I'm not 21 yet. So we go to this little restaurant. So let's get some lunch first right here on the beach. So we walk in there, and Bricky and Saglowski both order some beer while I go to the bathroom. I get back, and she's like, "You just want a Bud Light too?" Perfect. Didn't even ID me. Yes, I'll take it.
Carry on.
So our trip to go sightseeing turned into 5 hours sitting at this restaurant, just turning back beers. And
Because you got the green light off the bat.
absolutely.
Carry on.
I was like, well, if they're gonna serve us here, then this is where we're gonna stay.
You damn
So
straight.
we didn't do any sightseeing. And
That was a tactical move on your part, Billy, I believe.
we were
Fry guy.
adapt and overcome. Or what's the saying? Adapt and it is adapt and overcome.
I believe it is.
Fast, improvise, and
Exactly.
overcome.
There you go. And that's exactly what we did. So after about 4.5 hours there, we get to talking to this woman who was there on vacation with her children, like their spring break. She's like, "We're going to the go-kart tracks." Perfect. That sounds great. I'll give you a ride there. Probably 3 miles away from the car, not even thinking about it. So we take the ride. After about an hour and a half of go-kart racing, we realize we don't know where the car's at. We don't know where we're at. So we just start walking. And then we start getting phone calls. "Where y'all at? Thought y'all was going to be back by now." Well, and Glassy come up with this wonderful story about us being on a ferry somewhere, and we're trying to make it back as fast as we can. And so we're humping it back to the car, and we finally find it and make it back. And we start coming back through traffic. More calls. Where you at? We're hurrying. We're on the way. We're coming across the bridge. We get back into, was it Newport News or Hampton where the base was at? I think Eustis was in Hampton.
Yeah, Hampton.
Whatever one it was. Anyway, we get about 5 miles from the base, and Ricky's like, "Hell, I'm hungry. Let's pull over to the Mexican restaurant." And we pulled over there and went inside a Mexican, spent another hour and a half in there drinking and eating. Still phone calls. Where you at? We're hustling. And finally, I think after about 12 hours and ungodly amounts of alcohol. We finally stumbled back on base, and I think had to go get Bird pick us up at the gate, so we didn't go through there with a DUI. And yeah, that was just one of the fun adventures we had pre-deployment. This was like in our mode process.
It sounds like your E5 was a platoon leader off the bat by the sounds of things.
More like a babysitter.
Yeah, he should have known better. How much did they change from the military after we left Houston as far as like reservists and guard members mobbing at bases? Didn't they just start sending them all after us to Indiana?
Fort Dix, Indiana. What was the base down in Alabama? That's where Quiz and McDavid deployed out of.
Fort Rucker?
That's it, Fort Rucker.
Because I know when my brother went the following year when we got home, he was all down at Fort Bragg, and I went down and visited him one time. Every single one of them is wearing, their PT uniform at night. I mean, squared the hell away in the barracks, all kinds of crap. I'm like, we were up there. It was, all right, 5 o'clock's done. Do whatever you want to do. We spend nights at the bowling alley, titty bar, you name it. We was out doing it. Formation next morning, half people would show up, half people wouldn't. BDUs be just half on. Some people not even wearing boots, late to the formation. Everybody looking like this right here. I was like, how in the hell is this group of ragtags going to survive in Iraq? Not to mention we got trucks that didn't even make it from Southwest Virginia to Eastern Virginia without breaking down. They were all brand new. How are these things going to make it in the desert? Like I didn't like our chances, to be honest with y'all boys. I didn't like our chances.
We're pretty
at all.
slim.
Slim to none.
Now, what were you running at the time?
1088, FMTV 1088 tractor trailers.
Okay.
It's a cab over.
Okay.
And it's not the ones you see now. They had no armor at all.
Oh, dear. Thin skin.
And we had no armor either. We had flak jackets.
The Vietnam flak jackets.
Mm-hmm. I think they gave
No
us plates 9 months in.
Yeah.
No,
I
we
mean,
got
that's
them in
soft armor.
January.
Yeah, that's 9 months in, I
Yeah, 'cause
believe.
the mission that we got lit up was the very first mission I wore plates.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say flak jackets are soft armor. Good Lord.
Oh, yeah, that's just saving us from IEDs and things like that, but bullets is not going to do anything for you.
Nope.
I hung mine over the door. I figured the fragments would have to go through the flak jacket, the door, and the flak jacket again to get to me.
Good thinking.
What was the name of the battalion that mobbed us down at Fort Eustis? It was like was it a mob unit? What I forgot what they were called.
They were an Army Reserve unit. The commander was a female colonel out of Radford, and I remember her and her little entourage acclimating us to conditions in Iraq because we finished our training early, and we had nothing to do. We checked all the boxes. We were ready to go. Turkey said, we're not going to let you invade from Turkey, so they're trying to figure out how they're going to get us to Iraq.
I remember that debacle.
And this colonel, what am I going to do with these people? I got to keep them busy, right? Because if you keep soldiers, you don't keep them busy, they're going to get in trouble.
You'll be bailing them out.
So she has us, marching, doing all sorts of crazy exercises and full battle rattle to get acclimated to the climate in Iraq. We're going to the desert, and we're in Virginia Beach in March.
Oops.
Yeah, not exactly going to acclimate us to the weather. Meanwhile, her little entourage of, aides are sitting on a picnic table drinking lemonade while we're standing in formation in one little piece of ground that has direct sunlight on it, and our full battle rattle so they can watch us stand there.
And sweat.
And, yes, and sweat.
Oh, charming.
We left her a wonderful present when we left. Thank you, Travis Baker.
Rest in peace.
Yes.
What was it? A few fish underneath our building.
Yeah. The fish that they caught in the James River there that we had in the freezer the morning we left, they deposited them under her office before we got on the bus to go to Langley.
Oh, dear. Now, that was just the start of it, right?
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
and the building had skirts. She didn't. It's not like you could see these things sitting under there. So
Just stewing away.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they percolated pretty good before somebody was smart enough to go investigate what the cause of the smell was.
And knowing the government, it took them a long time to probably get to it.
I'm sure.
Now, I was trying to think. Heard you were a little bit older than us when you joined. Why in the hell did you join the military at such a ripe age?
Well, that was something that I had always wanted to do, and just the way life worked out, it didn't really have the time. It didn't work out that way because I was going to go active duty Army originally, and just things didn't work out, and then things happened in my life where I had opportunity that I could join the National Guard, and so that way I could do that and still be at home and still function with my family, but still serve. And so that's basically when I had the opportunity, that's why I did it.
So I want somebody to clear the air about Pickett. Did you know ahead of time, or did you not know until the last minute?
Oh, that we were going?
Yeah.
No, I didn't. I didn't know ahead of time. There were rumors that why are we going to Pickett to do this special training or whatever to go. But now I do know that there was opportunity, and I kind of blame Bird on this a little bit, but we knew
I blame Bird for a lot of things.
The 1032nd, who was actually doing SRP the same time we were, we knew they were going to be short, and we knew that they were going to need some. And basically, it was either, you could volunteer or you were going to be volunteered. And
Voluntold.
Yeah, voluntold. And the biggest thing for me was I was a professional firefighter at the time, and I was actually working on 9/11. And so for those of you that may not realize, the fire department is a lot like a brotherhood, like the military is, and so when we lost 343 people in the towers, that really motivated me. I wanted some payback. So Bird and I actually talked about it, and so we volunteered to go. I don't know how many other people volunteered, but usually most of the ones from our unit that ended up going either volunteered or they were the lower enlisted that really didn't have a choice.
As a result of 9/11.
Well, yeah, we were going to invade Iraq because 19 Saudis hiding out in Afghanistan. But at the time, who's thinking about it? You know what I mean? At the time, you're young and you're not thinking about that. You're just thinking, a bunch of people in this part of the world. You're not educated on matters like that, And I'll never forget it when they come and told us that. Well, in case y'all didn't know. Well, no, they still didn't tell us. They said, look, just in case, hypothetically, if some of you all were to, end up going, we want a list of who would be willing to go or who wouldn't want to go. That way, if you would volunteer, then somebody that really doesn't want to go, that might have different circumstances, can stay back. And I just remember, I don't know if Pooh and Casey over here were part of this. I think they were, because I know Bricky and Siglowski, Setliff, Himes, Dickhead, Purdue, all of us, we just kind of got together and said, either we all volunteer and go now, or we get split up and probably go at a different time. So we just all put our names down. And I remember the next day after they had us in a formation and started, they was naming off our names like it was the I'm not going to say F, like it was a freaking Price is Right, come on down, you're going to Iraq. That's basically what it was. And we get back to the barracks afterwards, and I told Hurd that story. I'll never forget it. He looks at me and said, well, y'all were going to go anyway. He said, y'all were lowest on the totem pole and young. He said, y'all were going to go. So, and you're supposed to have, I don't know how much time once you figure out you're getting mowed, but they only gave us 3 freaking days. I think it's like 2 weeks or something.
We had 2 days from the time we got back from Pickett to the time we had to report down to Gate City to put our lives in order.
They had their plan set, and that was a schedule.
They didn't have plans set. Once you find out when we get to Iraq, nobody even knew we were there. I don't know what the rush was. And then we just went and sat at Eustis for 2 months.
So let me get this straight. You guys all volunteered and got involved in the National Guard, which is the Virginia National Guard, which happens to be, dare I say it, the
state
regulated state militia for Virginia. At what point, how do you pick your MOS? where do you get allotted? How do you fit into the National Guard structure? I'm just intrigued because I don't know.
When you enlist, you're talking to a recruiter.
Who are the shadiest bunch of assholes on the planet, by the way?
I forget what the form is. 17 something.
1710?
No. There's a form.
Oh.
But it's a master roster for every unit, and it has every job in every unit.
Okay.
So if there's an opening, it shows in the system that this unit has an opening for this MOS. So that's what the recruiters have to offer you when you come in. So, for instance, when I first enlisted in the Marine Corps, I wanted to be a tanker. And the closest tanker unit to me was in Jacksonville, Florida, which was 300 miles away, which was way out of bounds. But there was an Amtrak unit in Tampa. So I thought I was enlisting in an Amtrak unit in Tampa. Wrong. My recruiter enlisted me in a motor transport battalion in Orlando. And I get to Emmette in Orlando, and here's my orders. This is where you're going. No, I'm going to the, Amtrak unit. And no, you're going to the transportation battalion. And
so how does that work though? Being Virginia National Guard.
Well, that's when he originally signed up.
Yeah, I'm going back.
So this
40
is before.
Years ago now.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I took the position in the Orlando unit, and then once I got out of basic training and MOS school, I just moved to the Tampa unit and fell in with their transportation detachment there. But when I enlisted in Virginia Army National Guard, they had driver slots in Rocky Mount. So you can, great, you've already trained. You've got an MOS that cross qualifies. I was a 35-31 in the Marine Corps. It's an 88 mic in the Army. We have 88 mic slots for you in Rocky Mount. Sign on the dotted line.
Now, the Rocky Mount unit's chemical, I believe.
It is now.
What did it used to be? Because it only became chemical only a few years back, from what I'm led to believe.
Infantry first, wasn't
Originally, it was infantry.
Yeah.
And then it became a light, medium truck company. Light, medium truck companies' jobs are to haul infantry. Because we have a lot of the 29th, 116th Infantry in this area. So that truck company's job specifically was to haul infantry in the field.
Right. Beats jumping out of airplanes, right?
Absolutely. But
No.
Yeah, and in my case, I picked Rocky Mount because it was closest to my house, and that was 88 mics. And at the time that I entered in, we were the light infantry. In fact, when we got deployed, we were still the light infantry. We were used to driving deuce and a halves. Never really seen tractor trailers. And then so the 1032nd was a tractor trailer unit. So when we all got to the 1032nd, we pretty much had to learn how to drive tractor trailers.
30-minute video. You're now
here's your
good to go.
license.
Yep,
There's your license. Off you go.
30-minute video.
Right
on how
up
to do-
81.
Oh Lord. I mean, I'm just trying to figure out how you volunteer for National Guard and that service, but maintain your geographic relevance to your home and place of work. I'm just trying to figure out how that will work. So at this point in time, you were volunteering for the Rocky Mount National Guard, which was a light infantry unit that then evolved into something else.
That's correct.
I mean, it sounds like, because the Brits used to do it where it was a county regiment, and the county regiment would then do all kinds of weird stuff, get amalgamated with this, and you volunteered for jumping out of airplanes or, just getting yourself beaten to death on a rigid raider.
Eventually, in the Guard, as you get promoted, you get offered promotion slots in other companies that might be a different type of unit, a chemical company. It could be an Intel company. It could be an IT company in different parts of the state. And then it's incumbent up to you whether or not you want to take that promotion and travel there.
So you do have an element of choice about how far you want to stretch yourself within serving in a National Guard unit. Cool. Okay. I now get the point.
Well,
As you
for
can tell,
us-
I'm the foreigner.
Well, for us, when we signed up, I signed up in college, and I was going to college a couple hours away, and I said, well, the Rocky Mountain unit's here in town. It gives me a reason to come home once a month. I can see my family, get a little bit of college paid for. So I just did it just based. I was like, so I'll be a 88 Mike. I'll drive trucks since, and I remember telling my mom, I said, I think I'm going to join, the National Guard. And she said, Billy, you'll go to war. I remember laughing at her and saying, I said, I'm joining the Rocky Mountain National Guard. We're not going anywhere. You know what I mean?
Surprise.
I ate those words. It wasn't even like a year or two later, I ate those words. So that's why we did it. Why'd you do it, Pooh?
Kind of the same for me. I wanted to go to college actually, and then I wanted to serve my country at the same time. And so that's how I got into there. Ironically, while I was in basic training, 9/11 happened, and we thought that it was just another drill when that came about. And sure enough, they were coming out there yelling at us, and we had just remember that FTX, the thing that where you'd go out in the field and you would have like a 9-mile ruck march or something like that.
Yeah, to end basic training.
Yeah, we just got out from that, and then we came back, and they said, we're under attack, and we're like, oh man, well we can't even get a break or reprieve. Here we are. And they were saying, oh, it's real. And they took us to the theater, I think, for a few minutes, and we got to see actual, the towers hit. And then we said, oh, wow, this is real. And
That must have been a fairly sobering moment.
it was very interesting because I remember flying I had basic at Fort Sill, and leaving all that training, airports, everything was just different. And the world just seemed different, even after that.
Yeah.
So.
I was actually on the island of Capri off the coast of Italy when I got a phone call from a chap that was serving. And he said, yeah, towers are hit. And they'd mobilised, and Hereford was just full of the cleaning staff, basically. And Hereford, if you don't know, was the base of 22 SAS. And within, I think, 24 hours, cleared out, gone. Nowhere, no one to be seen.
Yeah.
So, I think the mobilisation happened pretty quick from that point on.
Yeah, I remember my wife asking me, we were watching it on TV when, I saw the second tower get hit. My wife called me after the first one. And I remember my wife asking me, she said, what's it mean? I said, we're going to war. I don't know with who yet, but we're going to war.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that was a gloves off moment.
Yeah.
Yep, definitely.
I was asleep in a dorm room, and somebody come knocked on the door and said, y'all wake up, y'all going to war. I said, what? I was nursing a hangover. I went to my first class at 8 o'clock in the morning, which was coaching.
Billy.
It was coaching and officiating football, which was basically one of those classes that was taught by a coach on the football team to give all the football players an A, so we could always help stay eligible. So, of course, one of the grad assistant coaches was our teacher that day, and he as well was nursing a hangover. So we sat about 20 minutes in class. He's like, y'all just go back. I can't do it. So that's what we did. We all went back to the dorms, and I fell asleep and got a bang on my door. And we had just signed up. If I'd waited, I signed up 1 month before, a month and 4 days. If I just waited another month or two, my signing bonus would have tripled. Because they were in need of people. They knew it was coming. Like,
That's the final kick in the teeth.
I think
right
our signing
there,
bonus went from $8,000 to $25,000 in a month.
I will say this about Billy, because I was his team leader when he came to Rocky Mount. He never showed up on time, ever.
Billy, I think you need to respond to this.
I deny all charges. I'm a very punctual and garrison soldier. I think I led the charge. And my promotion ahead of most of these clowns to E5 should show that. Just to say, they put me in charge of things. They gave me the keys to that armory up there when we came home. That's how much faith our government had in me.
Big mistake.
When you do a roll call, you report all present and or accounted for. He was always accounted for.
He knew where he was, racked out with a hangover.
In Norfolk.
Everywhere. It didn't matter. But I still showed up.
Yeah, you still went.
And I still volunteered to go. And like I said, I wasn't much of a garrison soldier, but I don't think many of us were.
Definitely not.
No. Casey, what did you sign up for? Because I know you were one of the few that actually went to basic training at the end of your junior year in high school, and then you went and finished out AIT at the end of your senior year. I could have never did that. I went back and failed so many that it sent me back.
I'm going to give you the special ed answer. So I didn't know what I was going to do after high school, and I was bored, so I signed up.
Fair enough.
Thank God. I was afraid you were going to say you were afraid you were going to get drafted.
That's too special ed.
When he said it was special ed moment, I was wide open.
Yeah, so basically what happened, Simon, to kind of bring it all together for you. So we had all signed up, and I got home from basic training in AIT in May of 2002, and ended up going to our first AT, which is your 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year. The 2 weeks we were at Fort AP Hill. And Pooh over here actually got my first write-up for me because he was driving a truck and he ran over a sign.
You're welcome.
And for some reason, it was my fault he ran over the damn sign that says beat driver because I didn't inform him. He was about to go, like I could have. I don't know which one of these clowns beside me wrote me up. I think it was Hurd. But I was like, how in the hell? What am I getting wrote up for? You know what I mean? And that was in July, I think. And the following February, we're leaving out of class over there at Virginia Western because I transferred from Emory in anticipation of us going somewhere. And I'm leaving out of class. I walk up to CC's Pizza to get me some food, and they were closed. And I was like, damn, man, what a shitty way to end the night. And I look down and Bird's calling me. I'm like, well, great. And he's like, well, we're going to Fort Pickett in a couple of days. And I just looked at my buddy. I said, well, it's gotten even better. I said, no pizza, and I'm probably going to war. So, but I couldn't fathom it. Like, why? Somebody explained to me why a Podunk National Guard unit from Southwest Virginia ends up getting sent overseas in the first wave. It never occurred to me why that made any. We were not, we're not well trained. We don't do this for a living every day.
What were you actually tasked with running? What was your cargo? Was it what logistical support?
Somebody
were you
had to be the
providing?
guinea pigs. They got to figure out where they're at.
I really think that's probably what we were there for. We were there to.
Doug, this is more up your alley.
That's an NCO.
Yeah, it's like I said. Basically, our unit had flatbed tractor trailers go from point A to point B, and what we mainly ended up hauling was Class 9 supplies, which is basically anything from tank treads to water coolers.
Coolers, which unfortunately many of those fell off the back of the truck, and we just couldn't do anything about them.
Indoor
Combat
cabs.
loss. Yeah. It was a combat loss, wasn't it?
Pretty sure.
No comment.
Denial.
Yeah, and basically, and I don't know. I think originally we were supposed to come in from Turkey, and so I don't know how our mission changed, but that's something that our commander somehow worked out that we ended up doing the main mission that we did, which was basically go from Talil to Anaconda, hauling the Class 9 supplies, because Anaconda was like a main distribution point for the whole northern part of Iraq.
So Anaconda's north of.
It's
Baghdad.
northwest of Baghdad,
Okay.
probably from Rocky Mount to Roanoke. As far as distance.
That's a famous hub, right?
It's
I mean,
a
we've
little
all heard of
further
it.
than that.
Yeah, and
It's about an hour.
the official name, we called it
so.
Anaconda,
Yeah.
but the official name was Balad Air Base.
Okay.
Yeah, so we get to Fort Pickett, essentially, and the unit that got deployed was actually the 1032nd out of Gate City, Virginia, Southwest Virginia. And the Rocky Mount guys, about 45 or 50 of us, ended up meshing with them. So we actually went as the 1032nd with all those hillbillies from Southwest Virginia. So if you can imagine, all of us and then all those culturally appropriate individuals.
Well, with your cosmopolitan good selves.
Exactly,
I mean, I can
yeah.
see that mixing a little bit like chalk and cheese.
Yeah, to say the least. I mean, I would. I mean, probably Gate City, and no disrespect to that town, that has nothing to do with anything. But I'm pretty sure when our unit showed up, it was probably the compilation, probably the most black people that's ever been in that town at one time. I mean, it's just not a very diverse area. I mean, it's a culture shock.
Didn't one of them take a picture of one of the guys from Rocky Mount?
I think
Because that's
so.
the first time they've actually seen one in the
Yeah.
town.
Yeah, it was
Yes, that
First
was-
Sergeant Younger, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I took a picture
First
of
time he had seen what?
a black person.
Yeah.
That's not very culturally diverse, is it?
That's like Grundy.
I mean, close.
Yeah,
it's
there's
very close.
Grundy.
Very
There's a
close,
lot of guys from Grundy in the unit.
Yeah. So, I mean, we ended up going down there and meshing up with them. So that's kind of how we all came together. And of course, we go down to Gate City and we start meshing with those guys. And then we go to Fort Eustis for a couple of months and we get to know them a little bit. And we actually all meshed pretty well. We all partied pretty good. And we all, we all mixed us up into the certain platoons. And everybody at this table was in the 3rd platoon. So we were all together. And spent the 2 months at Eustis. And then around April 4th, I think, we shipped off. And we got there and spent a few weeks in Kuwait. You remember the British assholes in the tent that time?
Oh,
I'll never
I
forget.
knew it. I knew it.
I'm glad Casey is here for this because we were in there because it was a a USO tent or something like that. Just it was just a crummy tent, but they had a few board games and stuff in there. And we were in there playing something, and this little bastard turned around to us, started saying something we couldn't understand.
He was asking us how to play the game Risk.
Okay, that's what it was.
And we were like, we don't know. And he's like, well, what fucking bloody use are you?
Yeah.
Well, you see,
someone
Risk is
better.
quite a sophisticated game of logistics and power play and damn cheating. And apparently the Brits are quite good at it.
I remember asking him something else, and he just looked at me and said, "This isn't Burger King. You don't get it your way, mate," or something crap like that. I was like, I said, "You Army bastards enjoy the back lines here. We're going to go in Iraq. Y'all have fun." But it was, to be in there for a couple of weeks. I mean, I guess the war had kind of started. And we were down there, and you'd walk out of the back of your tent, and you'd see the metafights landing with soldiers just wounded, legs blown off, arms. I mean, it was pretty surreal.
Well, that was a staging point to get back to Germany, I believe.
That was Kuwait City, I think.
Yeah, Kuwait City, and then back off to 9 times out of 10 it appeared to be Germany for
We weren't in
medical.
Kuwait 2 weeks. We were in Kuwait acclimating maybe a week before we moved out to, was it Camp New York?
Or Camp Virginia, one of the two.
Yeah, and we were there probably 7 to 10 days, and then we were gone. We didn't see Kuwait again.
Not much of an acclamation then.
No.
Yeah.
The heat's brutal when you get there. It's better when you move out into the desert because it's not as humid.
It's a dry heat, yeah.
Yeah, when you're in Kuwait, you're closer to the water and there's a lot of humidity. And it's a lot harder in Kuwait than it is out in the desert.
Didn't our captain say he wanted to get into the shit?
He did.
Okay.
I found out from this because I talked to Captain Breeding on occasion.
He wanted to win medals.
We
That's kind of dangerous.
It's stupid.
were supposed to be. What was Arif John down in Kuwait?
There is an air. Yeah, that's.
Okay.
I think that was the
we
big
were supposed to be at Arif John, and we went into Kuwait. So they just attached us to the 8th Motors out of Germany because we were already there running missions. But we were supposed to be at Arif John.
Yeah, we weren't even supposed to go into Iraq.
That was our orders.
We're that Pennsylvania. We would meet up with that Pennsylvania unit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd have been doing the same kind of stuff they did.
Yeah.
But somewhere down the line, somebody come and said, "Hey, we got these assholes sitting in the desert not doing anything. Let's send them right into Baghdad."
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they sized y'all up like, look, we're going to send them out of here as soon as we can.
You got to get them out of here.
We need this ship to keep moving.
I mean, honestly, I can't imagine why they looked at us and said, "These are the guys we want leading the charge." You know what I mean? I mean, what was it? Was it our phenomenal physique, or was it the fact we were mixed between 18 and 65-year-old people? I mean, that's just not.
We had an incredibly experienced unit, though. The number of soldiers in our unit that actually drove tractor trailers on the civilian side of life, we had a ton of them. We had a ton of soldiers, especially on the 1032nd side, that had been in the Guard for a number of years, that had been driving tractor trailers for years. So we were rookies at it, but we had a lot of old hands teaching us. And when you're in a desert, there's not a lot of stuff to hit. So, we caught on pretty quick.
That includes you too. I mean, because you were in Desert Storm as well.
Yeah, and I had a tractor trailer's license before I went to Gate City, but I was a rarity. Not many of us had them.
Well, I'd have to assume from the National Guard from here and from Gate City, you got a whole lot of farm boys, and they all
hillbillies.
they all grew up. They all grew up driving that stuff.
And they were all friends too, just like
Yeah.
us. And we'd all been friends, growing up our entire life. So
you see a unit come in, you can't exactly hide who you are. Other people look at it and be like, well, look, these country boys, they can drive anything that's got a steering wheel. Let's stick them out there.
And they can fix it when it gets broke.
Yeah.
And we did.
Not to mention we had a lot of prior service guys too. So we had people that had a lot of military experience mixed in with us.
In every civilian job under the sun. We took, the room-sized generators that we found along the way. We policed them up. We had them running. We had hot water, hot showers. Nobody on Anaconda did. 25,000 soldiers on that base. We were the only ones that had hot showers. And
Stinking
we're a
like
National
hyenas.
Guard unit from Southwest Virginia.
I mean, how many fatigues do you get through in those conditions? Because I know in the jungles of Belize, they fall off you.
2. And our supply sergeant was most likely sending a lot of our equipment back to the States and selling it to Army surplus stores. So we actually had to get a lot of our equipment from other units, like the, what was her name, Sergeant Pitts or whatever?
Yeah,
She was a supply sergeant for this unit, reserve unit out of Pennsylvania. So we'd hooked them up with
Don't act like
booze.
you didn't know her name.
Uh-oh.
Shut up. Because Siglowski's going to be very upset because that's the one she had to crush on, not me. I just happened to see her about a year later. Anyway, yeah, so she would like, we would give her unit booze. We'd go out on missions and give them booze from Iraq because they couldn't get it in Kuwait. And then in return, she would send us supplies like boots, uniforms, anything like mounts. I think we had to get from her too. Mounts for our machine guns. And our own supply sergeant was just too lazy. They were in the Connex boxes too. All they had to go in there was get them out, and they were too effing lazy to go do it.
We were cleaning up and packing to come home.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. So, yeah,
I mean, it's not uncommon. Don't get me wrong. This isn't unique to.
Well, the government's
The
running
US
it.
Army,
and we
you
can't
know.
exactly expect it
But
to be.
logistics, it's like it's my shit. I'm not giving it to you. This is my shit.
Robert's AGR?
I think so.
I think so. Yeah.
That's
Yeah, I think
pathetic.
so. Yeah.
Because I remember specifically trying to get mounts for the saws. Oh, no, we don't have any.
All of us did. I did too. Yeah, I remember that. I couldn't get the
And there must have been a dozen of them.
bandoliers or
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I mean, we really had to fight and scrape and claw for anything we got, but we had fun with it. You know, we had
I sent you care packages.
you didn't send me a single care package.
I had to because I had to pay for it for the girls to send it to.
Okay, yeah, we got those. But I mean, you know, even then, a lot of them got lost on the way. Who knows how many of them got blew up by IEDs? Like there were some care packages we didn't even get. I found out sometime later, but you know, we didn't have uniforms. We could barely get resupplied on those, and we couldn't get ice. You know, something simple as ice from the military. So we had to buy it from Iraqis. They wouldn't provide us with beer, so we had to buy that from the Iraqis. Liquor. I think.
I tried a business boom for the Iraqis as well.
Oh,
Hey,
they
look.
made bank on us. Yes.
Look,
I'm a businessman.
that just goes to show you that even in the worst conditions in war, that capitalism can still succeed above everything else. People wonder how we all made it home alive. Every single swinging dick made it home alive. How? At the beginning of the war, through
Grace
all
of
the
God.
missions, there's nobody that ran more combat missions than the people sitting at
be
this
it.
table right here.
Grace of God. Yep.
Everybody right here ran has the most miles under their belt collectively than any other unit in the history of probably war. And we all came home alive because a lot of the times in a lot of these areas, we were well protected because our trucks were unique. And when the Iraqis saw us coming through there, they said, don't mess with them. They're going to buy stuff from us. Now, I would venture to say we probably spent collectively somewhere probably between $100,000 and $150,000 on alcohol. So we were probably funding the insurgency against us, but at the same time, they weren't messing with us. Yeah, for some parts of the
Yeah,
country.
that's called not biting the hand that feeds you.
Absolutely.
Simple
But they
concept.
weren't too sophisticated. They weren't rich enough to buy shovels because whenever we would go by them, I remember them digging it up with their hands, the beer that they had. Because the MPs would come along and they would, of course, obviously we couldn't have alcohol. So if the MPs saw the alcohol along the routes, they would bust them up on the sides.
Now, what is it with the U.S. Army being a dry? We call them a dry base. I mean, the Brits are just a bunch of alcoholics.
The reason Iraq was like that is because they said, well, it's a Muslim country and we don't want to disrespect them with alcohol or porn or anything like that, when all the alcohol and porn we were getting were coming from the Iraqis. So it doesn't make...
Whilst you're hitting them with a saw.
Exactly.
Capitalism.
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
So, yeah, we probably spent $150,000.
They knew our trucks too. They knew us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
it-
were
Very distinguished. Yeah, very distinguished.
Plus, we also looked tough coming through there. I mean, we all had the tops cut out of our truck, and whether you had a saw or a 50 cal. Now, we were also probably the most armed. Most armed, and that's what it was. They said, "Well, we got these dumb hillbillies right here. Let's just give them as much ammo as we can, and let them have that."
Make it happen.
We had, I mean, Mark 19 grenade launchers. We had AT4 bazookas.
50
We
cal.
had 50 cal machine guns, saws, and whether you had a M16 or a saw or anything, if we were going through a city, you were standing out of that top of that truck, and you looked fierce. Now, when we got out of the cities into the desert, you just sit down there and take naps. and even me, sometimes through the cities, I would take naps, but that's neither here or there. So we were a force to be reckoned with, but we didn't go around just shooting anybody and everybody just to make a point. We didn't terrorize people. We bartered with them. We traded with them. We allowed them to, thrive in their own setting, and we thrived in ours, and we managed to make it somehow. But yeah.
What was that place north of Baghdad that was a complete shithole?
Oh, you got to be more specific.
Tikrit. I heard one of the strike. I used to work with a couple of guys offshore. I mean, most of them had all served or either been to Afghanistan or the sandbox. He was a striker driver, and where they were going through Tikrit, I mean, he didn't stop for nothing. And when I say didn't stop for nothing, I mean, if you got in the way, it wasn't a good outcome.
We got ambushed. That was Tikrit, right? Right outside of Tikrit.
Outside of Tikrit, yeah.
Yeah, we've talked about that.
They stopped for us.
Yeah.
A striker group actually.
Oh, I'm saying with the local inhabitants, running across the street or whatever it may be, they weren't coming off the gas.
I don't blame them at all.
No. Well, he had no remorse in that statement when I was told that story.
No, I think we had somebody in First Platoon. I'm not going to mention names or something, but I think somebody walked out in front of them at some point in time, and
they pancaked them.
Yeah. Who was it that pancaked that car between?
That was the unit from California. The cab of the pickup truck was sitting straight up in the air.
They gave them $50 because they felt bad, right? And so
they totally flattened the bed. And the cab of the truck was like this, and the cab went.
It jackknifed vertically.
Yeah, it was just literally pointing straight
but nobody
to the
got
sky.
hurt, right?
No, nobody got hurt.
Well, I remember the guy was very grateful afterwards, wasn't he? He was like, "Oh, thank you, Mister," and then
the guy driving was a programmer for Java, Sun Microsystems. He was a Java engineer.
How did he even hit it? What happened?
The guy stopped in front of him, and he couldn't stop his truck in time.
Well,
yeah, I don't think it wasn't an
old
on-purpose thing. It really was an accident, but.
Yeah. He still felt bad though.
Yeah,
but $50 goes a long way back then.
Oh yeah, and then $20 was a case of beer. So we just gave up a case and a half of beer, pretty much.
They make bank with us.
Well, there's inflation for you. Oh damn! I'm going to leave that one alone. Leave that one alone. Backpedal. Someone else butt in. Tell me to shut up.
Shut up, Simon.
Roger that.
We didn't bite.
No, I mean we
wanted
actually.
to.
Oh no, you did.
We actually had we had protocol set up. Did Hurd, you know about that? I guess you did. You had to have known about it. But the way we would purchase alcohol with the convoys, so we would.
He probably didn't know about it.
Are you talking about the
7-Eleven
mysterious breakdowns or had to slow down at the end?
Okay, so
Part of it, yeah. There you go.
I have no knowledge of that. No.
So Simon, here's what we would do. So we would get what was it, Dogwood? What was the fuel depot?
Scandia.
So Scandia. So we had this fuel depot about halfway between our base and the base we were reporting to. It was just a fuel setup. But it was a pretty cool place, though, because you'd come through there and you'd get your fuel, and they'd have a little, what do we call it, 7-Eleven?
Yeah.
We call it the Walmart or something like that. They had a bunch of tents set up. You could go over there. You could buy guns. They wouldn't sell you booze or anything there because, of course, it was right there next to a fuel depot. But anything got guns, porno DVDs, not that I bought that kind of stuff, but and then you would get
well, the DVDs that were still out in theater too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, they had pirated DVDs. So you would every now and then buy a movie, and it wouldn't be porn. It would be the actual movie that was selling theaters. But they would sell you soft drinks and stuff. It was a nice little place. Of course, we had our coolers and our ice. We got ice from them and things like that. And so we would get about 7 to 10 miles south of that, and every single day we would have this Iraqi out, and that was 7-Eleven. He was the guy we called 7-Eleven. He was out in the middle of the desert. He would see our specific trucks coming through, and he would start uncovering all these cases of beer. So when we saw this guy, the first gun truck would see him.
Shrewd.
And the first gun truck would slow down from about 55 miles an hour or 50, whatever we were going, down to about 30 miles an hour. The next to the last gun truck would circle around to the back of the convoy and pull escorts, and then the rear gun truck would stop. The guy would come up to him, we'd hand him the money, and you would fit 10 to 12, 20 packs of beer. And they had good beer over there. It was all like 20 ounces. It wasn't
made in Jordan.
Yeah. And so we would sit there and we'd pile it all in the back of the gun truck. We'd cover it up because the Air Force candy asses would, if they saw it, they would get mad. But so we'd pile all those in the back, and then we'd radio back to the front gun truck, say, all right, we're good to go. We'd catch back up to the damn convoy, and then everybody else would take their positions, and we'd keep on going. So we had a specific protocol for each day, and it was so funny because as we were going like south, picking the beer up, you'd see our other platoon, like second or first platoon coming back north. They'd be doing the same exact thing with the guy on the other side of the road. So it was an everyday thing, back and forth. We were funneling out so much alcohol through that country.
That's a very shrewd businessman right there.
It
You
took
had to
them
do what
a
you had to
while to
do.
figure out what we wanted. They tried drugs first, and they tried this god-awful Haji whiskey. Oh, it was horrible rock gut stuff.
So it wasn't even real hashish, was it? It was like
You tell us,
black
Pooh.
tar heroin.
You tell us, Pooh.
that was the potpourri. That was
How many times did you smoke on the hashish?
0.
I know. Damn Dublin smoked on it every time he got it. Damn shit.
Well, he smoked something.
I was with him
I
on
mean,
one of those
they're-
missions.
They're well known for their hashish. I mean, they've been making it for centuries.
Yeah, I mean, they're pretty good at it.
Oh yeah, they are. Get them hubbly bubblies rolling.
Yeah, I'll never forget. And this is one of my favorite stories from over there because Pooh was such an innocent person before he got rocked up with us. I mean, kind of guy that would never cuss, never say bad things about anybody. And the first time I ever heard him really cuss, we were somewhere south of
we're
Baghdad,
going there.
kind of close to. we were kind of close to the beer stop. And I was riding with him this specific day, and he was supposed to be the gunner, so he was supposed to be sitting out of the top of the truck. He wasn't, like most days we weren't. I look up ahead, and I see all this commotion going off on the side of the road, in the desert.
Normally a bad sign.
Yeah, and people are running in our direction holding AKs. I was like, Pooh, what the hell's going on here? And then they start firing. And I'm like, Pooh, they're firing on us. And in Pooh fashion, he's sitting there struggling. She's a goddamn son of a bitch. He jumps up in. Sorry to cuss, but these are real words here.
Yes.
And he gets up and he starts training in on these people, and he's getting ready to waste about 3 of them. And then he pulls back real quick. It was Iraqi police officers that were executing people for stealing used tires
Oh,
on
dear
the side
God.
of the road. Actually, in hindsight, now that when you think about it, I kind of wish he would have wasted them, because why in the hell are you executing people like for tires? You know what I mean? Used tires on the side of the road or something. Let it go.
To get serious a moment, though, about stuff like that, because that's the kind of decision, that's a split-second decision that you have to make on the fly on something like that. And I think that's what's messed up with, again, kind of getting serious, that's what's messed up with veterans nowadays. Should I have taken that shot? Yes.
Yeah.
Or no. And then, could have innocent people lived had I taken that shot? Maybe. Did they cause, harm down the road? I mean, who knows? Maybe the Iraqi police weren't Iraqi police and they just had the uniforms on and they just got out and decided.
And they saw us and didn't mess with us.
You just never know. And I think that's why with veterans, when they come back and they see something like that, and then, then your people are worried about, oh, where am I going to drive to, or where am I going to have lunch? And that's the thing that.
Yeah,
That's the thing that they-
war makes those decisions and puts it very much
Exactly.
upon you.
Yeah.
With a moral conscience. But I think in those situations where, there's a Haji with an AK, I think you showed enormous restraint not to.
Well, he didn't even know. Like, we didn't know
Yeah,
they
we
weren't
didn't know.
firing at us
Yeah.
until we got right up on them.
That was we were coming back from Talil and had just turned on to ASR Jackson when that happened.
But those decisions are made every day with us as well. And I mean, do you shoot or do you not shoot? And that's something that I still struggle with today.
The day I was you and I were right after the ambush mission when you and I went out, and we went after the trucks that split out of the convoy, and you were driving and I was up in the turret.
Yeah.
You were driving like AJ Foyt that day.
Yeah. Well, what happened? We were the rear gun truck, I think, that day.
No,
Or-
we were up in the middle of the convoy.
were we? Okay.
And the convoy commander told the rear gun truck to go after the trucks that had pulled out of the convoy.
I don't think they even heard him or something.
Well, no, they went, but I told you to turn around and go after them because they couldn't go by themselves.
Yeah.
And
Which trucks were these?
we were running with first platoon.
Yeah, we were
I
the
think.
different platoon.
They were short-handed, and we came back. It was one of those things they were asking for volunteers, and it was right after we'd been in the mission where we got hit. And for me, it was kind of get back on the horse kind of deal. So I volunteered to go, and Pooh came with me. And he was driving at the time. But we had just caught up with them before the convoy commander told us to turn around and go. We'd already been driving that way for 10 minutes.
Right.
And I don't know what the name of the town we were going in, but it was just our 2 trucks, and we were, tailgate to the front bumper, and it was wall-to-wall freaking people, and there was a car following us with a gun out the window.
Oh, that's not good.
And he was trying to get up on us. And now, bear in mind, 3 days before, we'd just been lit up by a car.
And kudos to you, because you just came off of that mission, and you're still dealing with that, and now here you are, a gunner.
And I'm up on a turret with a gun, and I could have fired at him. And I think with our rules of engagement, I would have been justified, because I had a gun out the window pointing at us.
So why didn't you?
Because we were in the middle of a crowded town.
Yeah. Okay, so that was that. I mean, that you're controlling your muzzle at that point.
Right. And I figured in my mind, if I saw something flash, I'd have enough time to kill the driver.
Right.
Okay. That's
so
what
that's
I was
an enormous
thinking.
amount of restraint on your part.
And there was another part to the story I was thinking. Once we caught the 2 trucks we were after, we were going to have to turn around and drive back through this town. If I light up this town, and we get through the other side of the town and catch these trucks and turn around and have to come back through it.
They may not be so welcoming on the return leg.
After I just lit it up. So it sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, the decisions you make, they suck.
Yeah, but at least there weren't any consequences having showed restraint. Now,
No,
if there had been consequences having showed restraint, I think you could look at on that with a completely different perspective, perhaps.
Well, that car, everywhere he went in that traffic trying to come up on us, he was looking down the barrel of my gun. And I guess he decided he didn't
He must have had balls of steel, because when you're looking down the
He didn't want
saw,
to meet Allah that day because
well, a sensible
he turned
fella.
off. But he followed us for probably
I think you
2
trained
or 3
him.
minutes.
It was a saw
Hard.
or a 50.
Yeah.
It was a saw.
It was a saw. So looking down the wrong end of a saw probably is
And I had my
it's
finger
fairly
on the trigger.
intimidating.
I was ready to rock and roll.
Okay, well, good restraint on your part. Lucky bastard.
I think I maybe even got mad and told you to kill him at some point.
Yeah. I remember telling you, don't get off the truck's bumper in front of us or we're going to die.
I had Mr. Hurd's 9 with me that day. I remember that.
Was that military issued?
Oh, yeah.
I sense a story here.
No comment.
Oh, yeah, it was. I mean, in this, to put it into context, the first 6 or 8 months we were there, we were basically running missions from central Iraq to southern Iraq. And beyond that, I think, I guess, what time of the year was it that we changed? Maybe around December or something, we started changing and running missions north. So we went from Balad south down to Talil, which was very friendly, to going from Balad through the Sunni Triangle to get to Al Asad Air Base, which was close to the Syrian border. And that's when
That's when it got hot.
That's when it started getting hot,
The
And
Marines were out there at that time.
yeah, there was a bunch of people. That's when we got lit up that day. I think we lost 3. Were you on that mission? You weren't. Were you on that one, Pooh? Mm-hmm. Okay, so were you on it though? So me, Hurd, and Bird, I know we're all on it, and my truck got shot up. I mean, the guy riding with me, Willie P. Nathan Williams, he's been on the show before. I valiantly saved his life. He was.
Come on,
They
baby.
did a whole episode on this if y'all want to go back and listen to it.
It was. We were going through, and our truck got lit up, and I think 4 or 5 bullets went through there. One hit him in the chest, one kind of grazed by his foot, and I heard the other ones going like inches away from my head, and of course we didn't know where it was coming from, and the convoy was stopping in front of us. Trucks were running off into the desert because
Stopping is normally a bad move, right?
Yeah, well, because ahead of us, one of the guys had gotten shot and killed immediately, so his truck just starts running off into the desert. And we didn't know what was going on. I heard gunfire from my left. I heard gunfire from my right. So we stopped. I hunkered down, got out of the truck, went in between me and the truck. We were probably from this table length from the truck in front of us because I almost rear-ended them because we were getting shot up, and what can you do? You're not thinking. And so finally we stop and we get out, and I go in between and I start, I start firing, on the house that it seems to be it's coming from. And, and my buddy, I don't know. I saved him somehow. I think I jumped in front of that bullet and shot it towards his plate that day to make him, survive. But we got out and started shooting, and you don't. It's so fast. Everything's happening so fast. You don't know what to do. You don't know who to trust. You don't because there was a giant hill behind me with railroad tracks. Are there 50 people on the railroad tracks?
Well, that's always been the tale I've heard. I have unfortunately been shot at a couple of times, but knowing where it comes from is normally the hardest thing to figure out. Is where is this dude? Who's shooting at me? Where's it coming from? Am I stopping? Am I starting? Am I rolling? Am I just gunning it?
Well, to put it into perspective for you, so it was a BMW, and he comes up behind us and he shoots a vehicle, a couple of them. He kills an Iraqi, a Pakistani third world national, I think, kills him. Then he shoots another guy, it was a Canadian, because we were escorting civilians at this time. Shoots a Canadian guy's truck. I don't think he hit him, but he scared him. And so the convoy splits that moment. So we're still going. This guy in the BMW, he's shooting everybody. He's in the left lane. The passenger's out. He's shooting all the drivers, except for us. He goes by us, and for some reason doesn't shoot me. And he goes up in front of us and shoots another guy, and then another guy.
I'd say that was a mag change. Yeah.
But so he kills this one guy, and he goes off into the desert crashing, and then the convoy stops. So the BMW U-turns around, comes back down the shoulder, and that's when he starts firing, and that's when he hits our truck. And he hit my buddy in the chest, hit us, and he just keeps on going down the road. So the gunfire I heard to my left was him shooting the trucks in the driver's side. So I'm thinking it's coming from the hillside. When he comes back down, it's coming from the right. So I'm thinking they're in the house and they're on the hillside. So, it's all happening freaking fast. And next thing we know, we're all just sitting there stunned, and we've got 3 people dead, a couple others wounded. And fortunately, but unfortunately, none of us, it was all civilians that we were escorting, 2 third world nationals, but one was an American, unfortunately. And the Army,
that's the element of surprise right there.
Yeah.
It's...
Well, Hurd, we've talked about this story a couple of times on this show. So from your perspective, you were leading that convoy that day. What are your thoughts on the whole deal? Because you knew about it from beginning to end, and we had that stupid jamming device that screwed up our radio, so we had no earthly idea what was going on.
Yeah, I actually wasn't leading that one. I had just led a convoy the day before and was supposed to be off, but they needed an extra person like they always did. So I was going to have some fun, and I was riding with the actual convoy commander, which was Glover, and I was I was on the gun truck.
Glove nuts.
Yeah.
Glove nuts,
So
yes.
I was actually working the saw, which that to me, I was having fun that day because I was off. And what had happened, we were escorting third country nationals, which didn't speak English, and American KBR drivers, which did. And the American,
So there's the comms issue off the bat.
right. And the American KBR drivers had walkie-talkies. And so the convoy commander had a walkie-talkie, and each one of the Americans' KBR drivers had walkie-talkies. The initial truck hit was near the rear of the convoy, and it was actually an American KBR truck. But that guy didn't say, some dude shot at me, that's why I wrecked. He just jackknifed. And so we had no idea that, we were under attack at that time. We just thought the truck had jackknifed. And usually what happens when you have an accident is the rest of the convoy kind of goes ahead and kind of slows down, and then we get the accident straightened out. And so we were kind of stuck in the back with the accident. While the convoy was going ahead further up the line, that's when the car came through and was shooting the different vehicles and causing them, to run off the road. So about that same time, while we were getting the accident unbottlenecked, that's when the striker unit came through. So we let them go by us. And then that's about the time Bird came down and got me with
Swapped off Jones.
Yeah, with Jones, because Jones was actually the sergeant that was up in the front of the convoy that was in charge. And so they came and swapped me out with Jones, and Bird took me on the ride of death back up through there to get to the front of the convoy. So by the time I got to the front of the convoy, Art was being tended to by the night. The truck that Billy just described was out up against the berm. Checked on Billy and Willie P. They seemed to be okay. The striker guys were covering me as I move, attacking the house. So I left my saw in the truck when I went with Bird, so all I had was my 9mm pistol. And so I was walking, and my medic bag, so I brought it with me. But I was walking out kind of in the middle of the battlefield because the striker guys were like, what are y'all doing? We're attacking this house, man. And I'm like, okay, has anybody checked on that guy in the truck? No. Okay, well, I'm going to do that. Y'all just keep attacking the house. And so it was kind of a little bit crazy, but the best part is Billy not here. Well, somebody, I can't remember who it was. We knew that Willie P had been shot, but that he was okay, and so one comment made to Willie P was, "Hey man, you're going to get a Purple Heart." The next thing we know is we see Billy looking, he's pulling up his shirt and everything, just making sure that he didn't get a little scratch or something so he could get a Purple Heart. Did they tell that story before?
Yeah, Billy told that. He told that story on himself.
So, but that was the most, after the incident was over, that was kind of a funny takeaway of it, is that, Billy was looking to make sure he wouldn't get a Purple Heart for saving Willie P, of course.
Now, what did Willie P get hit with? I mean, I assume it took a round. It was an AK round, so it was a... What?
Hit him right over the heart.
7.62 by 39 or whatever
right.
it was. Yep. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I'm glad to hear the armor does work.
Let's be fair.
Well,
I wish y'all could have piled on before Billy got back out here.
Oh, we could have murdered him right now.
Actually, he had a steel plate. He wasn't wearing the Interceptor body armor.
And that was the first day we actually...
no, you weren't even in ceramics at this point. There was steel
No,
plates.
we were all... That was the
He
first
could have
day
been.
we ever got ceramics.
But he had an Iraqi cut him a steel plate.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what he was still wearing. He had a ceramic. He just wasn't wearing it that day.
I mean, it a bullet, like a hole here. Yeah. It just shredded when it hit the metal, and it burned his nipple off.
Yeah. We called him Nipless for the rest of the war.
And let's just clarify things. I was checking myself because Willie P...
He was touching himself
because
more
Willie
like it.
P... He told me, after it was all settled down, he said, "Hey, Riddle, I think I'm shot." I said, "Dude, shut up and let me enjoy my cigarette," because he was fine, you know what I mean? And then when he pulled it back, I saw it, and I was like, well, hell, if he got hit, maybe I did too, and I didn't know nothing about it. I just wanted to make sure my plates weren't broken or anything. I mean, come on now. I was in one of those moments, you're in shock, and through all that, the biggest memory I have is some ass clown sergeant major.
No, it
was
was
a
colonel.
lieutenant colonel.
No,
I'm sorry.
It was
Lieutenant Colonel. It wasn't
It was
no
a
senior
full-bird colonel
NCO.
to an ass.
Dear
I'm
Lord.
sitting there leaning up against the truck smoking a cigarette, and this asshole comes by, and he's like, "Soldier, that's a helmet, not a necklace, or a chin strap, not a necklace. Wear it right." I'm like, out of all this, that's all you have to worry about right now. We got 3 people dead here. Our truck is shot up, and you want to come police my uniform? Go F yourself, sir. I mean, pretty much. Just kiss my hind end. And, I had to check myself, but I was fine, naturally. But that was a long day. That was an extremely long day. And to put it into more perspective, I know we talked about this on this show before, but for Simon's sake, we also had the jamming device that day. So the government, in their infinite wisdom, had this device that was supposed to jam radio signals from them
IEDs.
for IEDs and
Yep,
stuff.
fair enough.
And
What
what
did
was
it
it,
jam,
Bird? It
though?
only actually jammed for 300 yards in either direction.
Yeah, just imagine a yardstick, right? And imagine there's a truck every inch on a yardstick. So there's 36 trucks in this convoy. I'm stuck in the middle of this convoy with this warlock that has a range of 1 truck all around me. So the only vehicles protected in that convoy, if that piece of crap actually worked, were the truck in front of me and the truck behind me. So me taking that piece of equipment out there that day was an exercise in futility to begin with, because they couldn't have told if it worked or not, because the convoy was 2 miles long. And it just boggles my mind.
That to me
Stupidity.
should never even, that technology when it comes to this kind of shit, this is what really infuriates me, is that technology has no place on the battlefield. It's not been tested, and it's put you probably in greater harm by having it with you than not having it at all.
But thinking you can rely on it.
Well,
That's disgraceful.
Well, because what it did is
And
it
what
jammed,
company?
it jammed our radio signals. So,
course it
the
did.
only person you could hear would be the truck in front of you or the truck behind you. So the front gun truck would have to radio back to the next one. He'd have to radio back to the next one, back to the next one, back to the next one.
And we know how that chain of communication works,
So
right?
nobody had any idea that we were shot up. Nobody had any idea that anybody was shot. The last thing anybody heard from me on the radio was, we're under attack. And I think that was Bricky and Cope. I just got on the radio and I said, we're under attack. And nobody heard anything after that for two reasons. Number one, it couldn't go any further than that. But number two, one of the bullets shredded both of our radios right through the receiver. So that was the second radio that was destroyed over there in my trucks. We won't talk about the other one, but yeah, so the bullet went, so I'm on there, and the last thing they hear is we're under attack. They had no earthly idea. So one of the gun trucks circled back around while I was back firing, towards the house, and, it was a great sight to see Bricky's dumb ass out of the top of that turret.
Hey, just for clarification, what was in that house?
I don't know. It looked to be abandoned.
I heard it was a school.
It was not a school. Those are terrible, awful rumors. There were women outside of the house after the fact hanging up clothes on the clothesline like nothing had happened. But I mean, I wasn't aiming at the house. I wasn't aiming to hurt anybody, but I thought you couldn't see through the windows. I thought somebody was in that window, and all I was doing was laying down fire to keep people's heads down until somebody else could show up.
Suppress your fire.
I don't know who was in the house or why, but that's why, because one of the Iraqis or one of the Third World Nationals had started pointing, somebody on the side of the road started pointing at that house. And I was like, well,
let it go.
And all I had was an M16. So I was just sitting there laying down a little fire. And fortunately, Willie P didn't open up on that Mark 19 grenade launcher on that house, because we would have had a mess on our hands. Fortunately, he showed restraint that day, but we had no idea because our radio communication was down.
It would have jammed, Billy.
It might have.
So you said that was one of two radios that got shot.
The other was also a combat.
There's another story around coming out here.
Related incident.
That radio shouldn't have cost $10,000 in the first place, is all I can say. And all right, I'm not admitting anything. This is not me. I just know the story. Okay,
It's over 7 years, right? We're outside of that boundary
we're
right
way
now.
outside of it.
There you go. Carry on. Let it go.
But still, I'm not admitting to anything. Still, I was not me. This guy.
Here we go.
Well, we were going through the desert, and this individual was test firing, because you always want to, especially
Of course you
in the
do.
desert, because the sand gets up in your stuff. You want to make sure everything's firing, everything's on point. Had the saw at the time. This person did, and pull back, nothing. So you clear out, you open it up, you clear it out, you put it back in there. Once again, nothing. So I'm like, okay, well, I've obviously got a jam. I mean, this person obviously has a jam. Let's fix it. So they took the saw down into the cab, not aiming it at the driver or anything like that, and pulled open the what's it called, the cover, to clear off some damage and see if there was something jammed down in there. We hit a bump, and all the thing, the slide goes forward, and
There was one up the pipe. Is what you're saying? There was one up the pipe, and off it went.
yes.
Oh,
Apparently, the driver who was driving that day was scared shitless. I mean, it sent him into a frenzy. A bullet hole went through a hat and through a radio. But to be fair to the soldier who did that, he brought his weapon down. He wasn't aiming at anybody or anything dangerous.
Muzzle control?
And muzzle control, and it jammed and it fired when you hit a bump. No finger was on the trigger. There really wasn't.
that shouldn't really have fired.
It shouldn't have.
No, it shouldn't have.
No finger on the trigger.
No.
Hey, Billy, I wasn't there that day. Who was driving your truck?
Siglowski. Oh, no, I mean...
Yeah, just to
I
add
see what you did there. I see what you did there.
just to add a little caveat to that, the person that Billy was referring to no longer carried that saw. His sergeant did after that, and he carried an M16, which was previously mentioned that he was using to shoot.
No, I mean, I carried the saw from some time or other, and God bless it. He came up to me and asked, do you want to trade? And I was like, absolutely. I'm tired of carrying this damn saw. And he put me in a gun truck after that, so I could hold the M16 half the time and the Mark 19 the other half of the time. I was so tired. Hurd wanted to go hoo-ah and carry that damn saw around everywhere, so I passed it on to him. I don't think it was anything that was mandated. How could you? We were a unit that ran up a sex doll up a flagpole. I don't think there was any kind of decorum there or anything like that. Yes, it was a blow-up sex doll.
That was not my idea.
Was her name Tamika?
Well, they got mad at us because we had the American flag flying. How dare us?
They did that my second tour, too. They said, and I quote, we were interrupting the peace process.
By what?
Run the flag up?
Well, we ran the flag up, and for some reason, what was it, Bird? People...
They claimed when we put the flag up, they were using it to walk their mortar rounds in on.
Well, I thought it was because
They were
we
using it
weren't
to
center
spot.
post, and people were showing up thinking we were like center post or something.
So how did y'all get a blow-up doll in the middle of the desert?
How did we get anything in the
We
middle
were
of the
very
desert?
resourceful.
Yes.
Oh, I can see. Appalachian America.
Adapting and overcoming, I believe,
and
was part of
Norfolk
the.
and Southern employee that deployed with us may have brought one with them.
Yeah. So they told us we couldn't fly the American flag anymore. So I don't know what her name was, but
I got the bright idea to run it up the flagpole.
so yeah, if you wanted to find us, just look for the blow up doll.
doll.
That's one thing that I will say, and I know this is the Appalachian podcast, but that's a unit from Appalachia, which is the 1032nd, and really the 1173rd was too at the time, but basically the area of 1032nd, Gate City, Grundy, that area. If America's ever attacked, that's the last place that will ever fall, because no one from Appalachia is going to thrive in a garrison environment, but you put those people in combat or in a tough situation, they are going to overcome and succeed every time.
I believe George III can pretty much say.
I mean, that's how Appalachia got settled.
Well, that was the Scots-Irish coming down trying to brew
Oh, yeah.
whiskey, right?
Yeah, I mean, the misfits made it happen.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
And the
we weren't-
redcoats suffered from that
And
one.
it just carried on down. Apparently.
Yeah. Quite right, too.
Yeah. So anyway, that was a radio that was a combat loss. So I'm pretty sure it was marked down as a stray bullet from outside the wire.
No, it was a mission loss.
Okay, I forgot it was whatever.
I
it
had
was.
to have that conversation with Chief Rogers too.
God bless you.
How did that one go?
Chief, I got a problem.
I think new radio.
He
lost the
said,
radio
"What's your
today."
problem?" And I opened up the door and I showed him. And he sat there and he looked very quiet for about 30 seconds. Looks like a combat loss to me.
Sensible fellow. Goodness me. I mean, that shouldn't happen, though, right? I mean, assault shouldn't kick off with its breach moving forward.
It shouldn't. I have no idea everything was properly attended to. I didn't have my finger on the trigger. The slide, I don't know what happened. I wasn't drunk.
Billy, did you just say I didn't have my finger on the trigger?
Didn't something like this just happen in Hollywood or something?
Yeah, I believe
Some Baldwin guy?
it may have.
He said he didn't fire the gun.
Well, no, he certainly did. He just didn't realise the live one was up the pipe.
He didn't touch the trigger.
He didn't touch a trigger. I didn't touch a trigger that day. I know that much. I know I didn't. Why would I have because I had one hand holding. God bless it. The guy had one hand holding the shaft.
Oh, really?
And the other one
now
holding-
you're talking about the shaft. Billy, come on, man.
Hey, throw me under the bus for monster truck and nubs truck in my yard. We're going to get to the radio in Iraq.
Apparently, another guy's hand was on the shaft and his finger wasn't on the trigger. Where are we going with this, Billy? For goodness sake, man. Come on. Come on, man.
Y'all shouldn't be turning this around on me now.
I did pick out, as soon as you went first person, you were done, brother.
Oh, I had Chris outside my ear for a minute.
Yeah, if anybody doesn't know, my brother's kind of sitting over here in the corner, and he's the one lone, we'll just say weakling that went to Afghanistan instead of Iraq, and he had it pretty easy over there. So, walking up and down mountains like in Colorado isn't quite. He didn't have quite the experience that we did. Yeah, why don't you come on and sit on here, Chris? Since this is my brother. He was an Afghanistan veteran, so. What's it like looking up to all of us 88 Mikes, being an infantry guy that went up and down mountains all day long?
I don't know. In Afghanistan, the 88 Mikes were too scared to bring us supplies. Had to get airplanes.
Oh, here we go.
Bullshit.
The shitstorm's about to happen.
I was in Afghanistan. That's bullshit.
Hillbillies in Afghanistan.
I'll give it to them. They got blown up 6 times in one day trying to get to us.
All right, so yeah, you said the 88 Mikes in Afghanistan got hit 6 times in one day. How did that happen?
Well, they rolled over the first one, and
You're talking about an IED.
correct. And EOD responded, and before EOD could even leave the scene, EOD had already cleared them to keep going. Boom, hit another one. So just all over throughout the day, they were bringing us food, ammo, everything. Never got it. So
So I think there's a lot of misconception there. A lot of people, they conflate Iraq and Afghanistan, but I mean, it's 2 completely different war zones. It's 2 completely different style of fighting. It's 2 completely different terrains. I mean, I give Chris crap all the time. If you've ever been to Colorado or out west, they are so thin out there. It almost kills you if you're not used to it. You got to get acclimated. My fat ass trying to go up the mountains in the Grand Tetons, I just wanted to die.
Oh, we ran gun trucks over there, my 4th mission, and I remember because we were down in the flats in the desert, and it was like 70, 80 degrees. Same day, drive up in the mountain. Next thing you know, it's like a foot of snow.
Yeah, that's like Colorado, And you're out there, but those Taliban guys, they know how to fight.
Oh, yeah. Well, what Chris was saying, too, when I was over there, we always had to worry about them daisy chaining the IEDs because they would daisy chain them so, like, one would go off right after the other. And that was in our mission briefing, like, almost every time, is daisy chained IEDs.
Yeah, definitely not the same as Iraq. They were very uncoordinated, at least while we were there in Iraq. But Afghanistan, I mean, we get messages from Chris and stuff, and God Almighty, I would take Iraq 100 times over again what we did than ever go up in there into those mountains. And because those guys, I mean, give them credit. They're tough. They know the terrain. They're fast, and they've been fighting their entire lives. I mean, before us, it was Russia. It's just ingrained in them, and they know their spots. They have their spots. You can't reach them. It's not, Chris, y'all were out there basically by yourselves.
yeah, we were in nowhere.
I guess if you've ever seen Restrepo, which is a really good documentary about Afghanistan, that's probably as close, to what you did as you could probably put it into perspective, right?
Exactly.
Well,
So
That's normal
Afghanistan's
for
called
infantry over in Afghanistan.
Do what?
That's normal for infantry in Afghanistan. You don't have bases. You have outposts.
Mhm.
But the bigger bases, I don't know, there's maybe 3, maybe 4 in country.
Kandahar, Bagram, and
Kandahar, Bagram, Jalalabad. I know there's one I'm missing. But Jalalabad's the one you always see getting hit with, like suicide bombers at the gate. But over there, like Iraq, you guys had to worry about people with cell phones calling and detonating a bomb. You didn't worry about that in Afghanistan. You worried because the day I was hit, the truck or the tractor and pulling a trailer came down the road just fine. No, they would wait. They had people just waiting. They would connect the wires as soon as their vehicles got by and you started to go forward. Then bam, that's it. Cell phones, I mean, nobody had cell phone service over there hardly to begin with. So
yeah, I mean, Iraq was honestly,
it was pressure plate or they hooked it up when you were coming.
Iraq was first world compared to Afghanistan, really. I never had the opportunity to go over there, but I know Casey did, and it's just, the stories and stuff. I can't imagine. I know y'all envy us, us 88 Mikes, riding our trucks all day long, and while y'all were marching up and down mountains. I mean, you went to the top of some mountains. Were you there? You were there the day that, I don't know if anybody remembers this, but were you there the day that there were like 6 or 7 military, Army, U.S. service members on top of a mountain at a range or something, and I think Afghani military guy who was in uniform turned around and executed all 6 of them.
That was 6 guys from my company.
Yeah, and you had to march up that mountain that day, didn't you?
We were QRL.
Yeah, that was a big deal. I mean, that was huge news because, back then.
It's big news if a general has to come out and do the investigation. You can't get a general away from a cup of coffee.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. So, I mean, but, Chris, he also, before he went over to Iraq, he came and joined our unit there for about a year or so and hung out. And those are some fun times. That's when we got back and they'd given me the keys to the armory up there. And a bad idea for the government. But, Simon, if you can imagine, what's the word I'm looking for, Bird? Obtained?
Acquired
it was a 5-ton or a deuce and a half. Can't remember.
It was a 5-ton. I was there.
A 5-ton training.
I was the one helping you.
Training opportunity.
Yes. I had the keys up there one night. We had a party down at the cabin.
Improvised training opportunity.
And we borrowed one of the 5-ton military troop vehicles to take down and escort people from the top of my hill down to the bottom. Because we didn't want to tear the road up or anything. We could fit a lot of people on there. So you can imagine me driving down the road in civilian clothes, 3 sheets to the wind in a military vehicle going down to the farm. Everything you can think of was basically happening that day.
Outstanding.
But hey, it was their fault for giving me the keys.
Who was it that pulled Siglowski's Bronco that he let me drive when I couldn't even hardly see my feet? They let me drive his Bronco. I think Siglowski let me. Was it his bachelor's party?
No, when he was just down there one night hanging out. He took it to Blackwater River and didn't really know that you got to find hard spots in the river to make crossings. And he went straight out in the middle of a river bend and got that thing sunk down deep in there.
No, he told me to drive. I knew where to go.
Wait, didn't his family
he said, hit
put
the bank? And I hit it, and we flew all the way up in the air. I was like, we're going back over on the hood. And then no, they come back down, but busted the front tires.
Didn't he put a whole lot of his Iraq money into that thing?
Probably.
Like redoing the engine and everything?
I'm guessing he did.
Is that the same one he wrecked right before we deployed?
I'm not sure.
He wrecked coming to Gate City right before we deployed.
I don't even remember that.
It was exit 1. Remember you could take exit 1 to Gate City, or you could take the first exit in Tennessee, which is 11W. He was coming down exit 1, which is by the Carter Fold where June Carter Cash is from.
Oh yeah.
That curvy road. He was on that road and he wrecked it there. I'm almost positive right before we deployed.
I don't remember that. It probably was. All I know is he got stuck in the river, and then we took something else down there to pull him out, and that got stuck. And I think we eventually had to call Keith Tosh to come in there and pull both vehicles out of the damn river that night.
No, the story was me and Siglowski had 2 females in the vehicle. I told him, I said, you're in the vehicle, 4-wheeler or cross? Your Bronco? No. He said, yeah, it will. Let's go. So I hit it.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, it's just amazing we made it home alive from any
What
of
could
that kind of
possibly
stuff.
go wrong?
A lot of things. A lot of things went wrong a lot of times, but somehow we managed. I think, we've done so many episodes on here. We've done a bunch of the Iraqi ones. I know we've kind of went over some of the stories a couple of times, but it's still fun to kind of rehash them when you have different people around listening to them. And I remember, for Casey over here, I used to give him so much shit because one night they were on a guard tower and it was right after Christmas. So we had just gotten those knives. I guess they gave us, what were they? The
Gerbers.
Yeah. Yeah. And he was sitting on a guard tower one night and took it and said, I wonder if this can go through the Kevlar. He was getting ready to stab himself in the heart. And Siglowski said, stop.
This is why I got the name Special Ed.
Yeah. He's like, no. And Siglowski said, watch. And he pulled his vest open, took the knife, and just like butter, went straight through that daggone thing. Yeah. And I gave him crap for so many years until he reminded me of who told me about the mortar round.
It was me. I remind you of that. Playing football with the mortar round?
I'll never forget that day.
No. A
Which
live
day?
water round.
That. You would come diddy bopping down the road with the RPG over your shoulder. It's like, Billy, get rid of that damn thing. What?
What is it?
It was a mortar round, and me and somebody were tossing it like a football.
What is Setliff?
I could have been. I don't remember. All I know is as it wasn't occurring to me at the time that the way a mortar round actually detonates is it spins, eventually. And I'm sitting there tossing like a football spinning, and I don't know if we.
That's Russian roulette, by the way.
In hindsight, I must apologize to Casey for his special ed comments over the years, considering I was tossing a mortar around like a football.
I believe there's a role reversal about to take place. Billy.
We can go into some more special ed stories if we need to.
Yeah, there's plenty.
Yeah, that was a unique incident for me, but but Doug, for you, because you're the one that hasn't been on here. Well, of course, we'll get to Pooh as well, but I mean, for you, what was the best story for you over there? What was the thing that sticks out to you the absolute most? Aside from the ones we've already kind of talked about.
I got one that is Doug related. Remember the time we were drunk coming back from Dollar Beer Night at the bowling alley on base?
Absolutely. Well, no.
And we were combat rolling into the bushes and hiding from the MPs.
Was I with you?
Yeah.
God,
it was me, you, Siggy. I can't remember who else was there. We were combat rolling through the bushes, and he comes out, and we were supposed to be back at a certain time, and he's at the bottom of the barracks just walking back and forth. So we decided to climb up the ladder. And he goes back in the building. We're like, okay, it's all clear. We decided to climb up the ladder, go onto the thing because it was a 2-story, go in, and as soon as we walk in, he's standing there just waiting on us. I'll never forget that.
Yeah, I had to be pretty sly sometimes, but I remember that one too.
God, I don't even remember that night.
We were all drunk.
You don't say.
Yeah.
I remember one night almost bowling a 300 perfect game at the bowling alley down there at Eustis, and I was in frame 7, and I'd rolled all strikes. And this Parlier, you dickhead, he runs out there to me and jolts me as I start throwing a ball and end up rolling like a 7. And then I got 2 more and got a 9, and I end up striking out the rest of the frames. All strikes except for that one frick. I was on a way to a perfect game, and he had to come out there and screw it up. But I do remember Siggy's Superman bowl where he would run towards the lane and he would dive like Superman and just launch the ball from his chest. And I'm
He got a strike too, didn't he?
pretty sure he did get a strike when he did that. We'd sit in the bar. I mean, that's what we would do at Eustis. We would sit in the bar at the bowling alley and drink dollar beers, and we would bowl or sit on the TV and we would watch.
It was on base too, so they didn't care we were 18.
No, they didn't give a shit. We would sit there and watch the footage,
Quite
of
right
what was
too.
going on in Iraq, because we were almost getting ready to leave, but they were still invading at the time. The third ID was making their way up, and that was a lot of fun. So that was your favorite herd. God, you got to have better herd stories now. We got to have some from overseas.
Well, I'll tell you that I'm going to come to one that you're probably not going to like, but
Why is it that? Don't bring me into these things. Come on now, let's be objective.
I think the amazing thing, we had a lot of senior guys, but we had a lot of really young kids, and they would do young kid things, and part of my job as de facto leader or NCO was, to make sure that whatever damage was created was as limited as possible and as isolated as possible as it could be. So they kept me busy. And even Bird, who was one of the senior guys, I had to go get him out of a few establishments, myself. But, it's amazing that we really all made it back alive. But at the same time, these kids, were just learning, and I am personally so proud of the men that they've become. If you'd have told me that Casey was flying an airplane, I would have probably had a heart attack.
I still won't get in one of those planes. I promise you that.
And we have several young kids that were with us there that have had very successful lives. And I'm proud of that. But the story, and this is kind of related since Chris is here, we'll kind of get into that. As 88 Mike, most of your gear, you carry it from your tent to your truck. It's not very strenuous. And I remember one day it was hot, and I don't know if y'all talked about this with Billy before, but in Billy's tent you couldn't even see his bunk because he had all of his stuff piled up on it. But I remember one day that it was extremely hot, and Billy comes dragging in. He's not carrying his stuff; he's dragging it behind him, And he is hot, and he's upset, and he pretty much says, "Screw this! I'm joining the infantry." you know. And I just about fell out laughing because I was like, Billy, you see all this stuff that you're carrying and all this stuff that's on your bunk. If you were in the infantry, it would be on your back all the time. You know, and that is just the funny. That's a fond memory of me. Just that he would make that statement is, "I'm going to go infantry."
I could have hacked it.
Oh dear.
Not by your range score.
Well, I remember, and this is something that people can't appreciate, but you had to burn your crap over there as well. So we had the porta johns that were makeshift, and you go in there and you crap down into a bucket. So every day,
Filled with diesel.
for the most part, actually, our first sergeant would go do that because as useless as he was as a soldier outside the wire, credit enough to him, he took care of us how he could by at least doing that. But we ended up losing a spade game to Hurd at some point in time, and Hurd and Bird, and the bet was somebody have to burn shit for about a week or something. So
2 weeks.
yeah, so me and Casey were out there every single other night with 5 gallons of JP6 or JP whatever it was, lighting that crap on fire. I mean, it was the nastiest job you can ever freaking imagine.
I'm pretty sure they got pictures of it too. Somewhere.
There's some pictures of me out there with a bandana on my face just having to stir that. I mean, it was the most you'd have to stir it, then you'd have to dig a hole and bury the nasty ass shit. But people can't appreciate that, you know what I mean? Like, and even after us, they started getting these trailers and stuff that had showers and they had shitters and stuff, and we opted to stay on Mortar Alley to avoid going to center post. So if you can imagine this, where we were at, Simon, we were right there beside the wire. We basically claimed that spot in the middle of the desert when we showed up in the very beginning and fought like tooth and nails not to get sent to the center post, because when you get sent to the center of the post, then you got to start following stupid rules. You got to carry your weapon everywhere you go. You can't be drinking out in public, things like that. So they finally forced us, because we got mortared how many straight nights?
A bunch.
Like 120 straight nights. We were like, we would rather sit here and get mortared than go put up with the Army's bullcrap on the center of post.
That covers it.
And that's what we did. We sat there and, we had a ball. I remember one night getting blessed out by a colonel because we were under mortar fire, and my job was to go out to the sandbags. And I propped up my weapon. I had the saw at the time, propped it up on the sandbags. I was in my boxers, Kevlar, and I had my helmet on, and the colonel just walks by, and he was like, "Is this your freaking uniform, soldier?" I said, "It is right now." You know what I mean? I was sleeping, and y'all woke me up to do this kind of thing. But we were very rogue. We kind of did our own thing, and that's what makes like our whole story really, really special. And I know there's so many of them out there. I keep trying to think about them. That's why I like bringing everybody in here and talking to them and kind of refreshing our memories, because there's things I forget about. And there's other people's perspectives and things like that. But like, there should really be a book about this unit, because there is no earthly way we should have ever all came home alive. There's no and that's not just from Iraq. We should have killed ourselves on multiple incidents.
I was going to say, some of it may have been self-inflicted. We need to be a little bit cautious about this.
You're an excellent writer, Billy. You need to write the book.
Well, the thing is, if I keep doing these shows enough, I can have some feedback to go back and listen to and eventually write it. But I just need the time. And
I honestly think it all backs up to Appalachia. I mean, seriously. I mean, we've always fought for ourselves, and that's where y'all's unit was from. That's where y'all, So going into it, no matter what happened, your core is mountain living, and then you just transfer that right over to
Self-reliance.
the next mission.
Self-reliance. These are
Absolutely.
I'm making up my rules.
We depend on each other.
Absolutely.
Not the people that are sitting in a tushy office somewhere telling us what to do.
Drinking a nice cup of coffee, double
our
frappe.
company embarrassed every other company in our battalion, and I mean badly. I mean, we weren't good soldiers, and we were always in trouble, but we always accomplished our mission. We hauled thousands of tons, thousands of miles further than anybody else in that battalion did, with no casualties.
So y'all wasn't good soldiers. Y'all were great soldiers.
we were good.
We did what we had to do.
That's exactly right.
We were good field soldiers. Garrison soldiers, not so much. You put us back, around brass and
Spit and polish
and
and bullshit.
decorum. Yeah, that was not us. in the least. But we made it work. And we were probably the most Appalachian unit since the Bedford Boys in World War II, and everybody knows about them. If you don't, then I don't know, you must be under a rock somewhere. But those were the guys who were storming the beaches of Normandy, and until we showed up, there hadn't been really another, and we were so much different than them. I mean, of course, because naturally they were storming the beaches of Normandy, and we were, getting 3 sheets to the wind driving through Iraq. But details, but it's about camaraderie. You know what I mean? It's about
Well, that's how units are made up, isn't it?
What's that?
That's how effective units are made up.
Absolutely, and we somehow weeded out, the bad ones. Who was with us on that mission when we got lost in downtown Baghdad?
Oh no, that's a bad
That
place
was
to
all-
get
That
lost
was
in.
when
Barrel.
Barrel was in charge.
Were you
of
on
Siggy.
that one?
Yeah, I was on that one.
I just remember Siggy was driving with him and told him to go this way. He knows the way, and he's like, "No, I'm a lieutenant. I know better than you. Go this way." Next thing you know, we are in a downtown Baghdad market. There's 7 vehicles, 2 people a vehicle, and we are surrounded by 10,000 Iraqis.
Is that when they threw the grenade or the RPG at their truck when he did the U-turn?
Yeah,
we didn't
the
do
window
it.
was rolled up and it didn't go in.
I don't think we did a
Yeah.
U-turn. Did we do a U-turn that day?
Yeah, we did a
I
U-turn and
remember
went
Siggy
right back
telling
through
me
the
about
city.
that.
Yep.
I don't remember that. I remember we kept on going straight. All I know is I was with Davis that day, and he looked over at me, and he said, "Riddle," he said,
Don't stop.
"Is that Saul? Is it hot?" I said, "Yes, Sergeant." He said, "Good." Because that's all you could say. You didn't know what was going to happen, and fortunately, we drove through enough and come up on a tank at Baghdad University. And
I remember when we got back to base, Siggy told me, he's like, "Yeah, Beryl came over to me, looked over at me and said, 'Hey, can you read this map and tell me where we're at?'" And he's like, "I'm fucking driving the Humvee. You read the damn map."
Wow.
Well, it was our first F-bomb, I think, and it wasn't from
Oh no,
Simon,
I think
so-
there was no. It wasn't from me,
bad.
which is a blessing
Yeah, it's
in itself.
but you got to kind of, if you're going to tune into a show with a bunch of veterans, you're going to get some cursing. So
I've got to share a quick story about Belize.
yeah, I want to hear this one because this kind of ties into the burning shit.
Yeah,
don't it?
it reflects on burning shit. Now, the Brits, bless them, we call petrol, gasoline, civ gas. And we'll put that normally with a red cap on a jerry can. And the diesel was...
A jerry can.
5-gallon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to translate
Those
for you.
tan
That's very
You
kind.
said on a
Actually, I
truck.
didn't realise you were my translator,
I'm
Billy. But
trying-
this
I'm
is
trying
interesting.
to
I know
help
exactly
everybody.
what you're talking
So
about.
we were on this little observation post that happened to be, it was a dry post, which in the British military is unheard of. However, I was the sole supplier of rum, as luck would have it. So I turned up with a lot of it, and got acclimated with the small regiment that was supporting us. So anyway, the regime there was, we had an outside furnace. It was a cinder block, and we would burn everything. Everything got burnt. So, and the protocol was to go out there just before dusk, douse the furnace with diesel, appropriately, one would normally think, and then give it a little tickle with civ gas, have a long branch and a rag that you would soak with civ gas, light said rag, extend long pole, and light said furnace. So anyway, one evening I saw one of, poor chap, 1st Battalion Light Infantry. I'll never forget it. And I saw him with the red cap jerry can dousing this whole furnace. Now, a decent man would have stopped him. I'm not claiming to be that decent man. So I grabbed the lads and said, "You guys need to come out and watch what he's about to kick off, because this could be rather funny." And then he picks up the diesel can, gives it a little splash. And I'm like, oh man, he hasn't figured this out yet. He gets his rag, soaks his rag with a little bit of diesel, wraps it round the long pole, and he stands back and he's having trouble lighting this rag with diesel on it. Oh, that should have been his first clue. Should have been. Anyway, he gets his damn thing lit. And thankfully, he steps back a little further and then extends the rod at full. And as it came down on top of this furnace, this thing went off. And it went off in a big way. It obliterated. It was a massive fireball explosion. And this was looking... We were on this tiny little key in Belize, palm trees. It was beautiful. There was a lagoon behind us, the ocean the other side, the barrier reef. And, I mean, it was idyllic. And then it was like a mushroom cloud. You saw this guy stumbling back, and he didn't let go of this bloody pole. This is the funny thing. He never let go of it. And I'm like, let go of the pole and run, you idiot. And he's staggering back, still holding the pole, wondering what's going on as his fireball is chasing him. And he's legging it back to the lagoon. He dives into the lagoon and he gets away with it, thankfully, because otherwise my heart would have been broken, quite seriously. Anyway, he comes up and he goes, I saw you, Simon. He goes, why didn't you stop me? I said, well, I should have. And I guess I owe you an apology. But I had to see the outcome. I mean, how it didn't blow him to smithereens and just give him 3rd degree, 2nd degree burns all over. It was phenomenal, but it was I wish I'd caught it on camera because it was just a classic moment of stupidity that I just let happen. Shame on me for doing that, but there was all sorts of shenanigans there as well. But yeah.
Evil shenanigans. We had quite a few moments of those with special ed. We went into them before. Maybe we'll go into them again. I do remember one incident when you talk about jumping into water. Pooh, weren't you bathing one time in a
100%? Yes.
In a lake that was that had VX gas in it? Apparently,
yeah, sarin gas.
What happened with that?
Oh, that was great. How long had it been at that point? It was during combat operations, right? With 82nd.
Days.
Yeah, we weren't there very long. We just got in the country.
Did someone just say sarin?
Yeah.
There were some beautiful lakes in Iraq. That's a lot of people the misconception. I think a lot of the thing about Iraq, they think about the oil, but I think the water is the most important thing in Iraq because it's one of the few desert countries that has it. And those northern lakes, and they were beautiful when you looked at them.
You can take postcard pictures in Iraq, and you'd think you were on an island somewhere. They're beautiful until you pan left or right.
Mm-hmm.
So these are the classic wadis.
You're thinking more like around the Tigris and Euphrates. That's
It's all along the rivers is where these things happen, and that's what happened to poor Pooh.
So what happened with you?
tell.
You needed a bath.
Oh
Pooh.
man, well we were all pretty rank at that point, right? And then
We were rank at all points.
and it was so I went out there half naked or fully naked, one of the two, with a bar soap in one hand and shampoo in the other, and I waded out about waist deep. But the 82nd guys, the water guys, they were sitting there pumping that stuff out of that lake as fast as they could at the same time. So we're out here, and it was a few of us that were out there. I don't think in this company.
That's when we got split up, right?
Yeah, it was with the 82nd.
Yeah.
And so we were all, doing our thing. And then one of the chemical guys comes out there and says, "Hey, get out of the lake. There's traces of sarin and VX gas in this lake." Well, how in the world could that be? There's freaking frogs right here and fish, right next to me as I'm bathing.
But he was screaming at you, losing his mind.
That's right. That's true. And so at that point, of course, I got paranoid as all get up. I'm like, I think I'm going to die from being exposed. But honestly, I think what happened, though, with that was the brass was going to come around, and I think they didn't want a bunch of swinging dicks.
All right.
Going around.
So hopefully it was someone yanking your chain in a big way.
I hope so. Yes, I hope so. Yeah.
Well,
We'll see.
I think that's what happened to Chemical Hottie because I'm pretty sure she took a swim in that.
Oh, I need an explanation. Don't get away with just dropping that.
Who wants to explain that one?
I will not.
Bird, since you brought it up, you've got to explain Chemical Hottie.
Well, no.
Is she still alive? Is she going to listen to this?
The chances are no.
I don't know.
Both ways. Yeah.
She was
Just change names.
It doesn't matter. There's only one chemical person in the entire. you know who this is going to be. We didn't have a plethora. We didn't have like a squad of
Do you
chemical.
remember that?
We had two people.
I'm sitting there trying to She didn't stay. What happened to her? She didn't stay the whole time with us.
No, she faked her own. She forged medical paperwork to go back home early with all sorts of medical issues.
Oh, then have at it. Then let her go.
Yeah,
then. Let it go.
absolutely.
Have at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then she got home because I found out this when I came back and they put me on active duty again up in Rocky Mount. Nothing ever happened to her. I mean, she lied and cheated and friggin' forged her way till she got discharged. But yeah, she lied and said, signed a doctor's name saying she had some sort of medical condition she didn't have. And away she flew on, a Freedom Bird back home.
On a broomstick.
Yeah.
Now, to put things into perspective, once again, Chemical Hottie was a very sarcastic nickname, to say the least.
Oh, she gave herself that name.
Did
Yeah.
you really?
Do you remember what it was painted on the side of her truck?
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Self-appointed
Yeah, she drew
names
that.
are no good.
Remember
You got to earn them.
Remember Granny from the Beverly Hillbillies?
Go on.
Imagine her on meth.
Without teeth.
Oh, that's an accurate description. Yeah.
I mean, and not saying
That's a
she
good
was
outfit.
on meth, but I'm saying
That's
if she was, it wouldn't have been a surprise. I mean, she was not hot in the least. I mean, not even close, not even a little bit, not even being in the desert for a year, not having anything. Would you dare?
Oh, I know.
The Wicked Witch of the West is a
Yeah,
good
she looks-
description.
I got the picture. Trust me, I've been offshore long enough to know exactly what you're talking
I mean, even
about.
6 months in country didn't even make that look good.
Well, I mean,
I don't think 10 years in country make that look.
no, and I mean Simon can relate. I mean, for sailors, when 100 sailors go out, to sea, usually 50 couples come back, so he can definitely.
It's not gay when you're underway. That's the saying. That's the saying.
But yeah, she didn't she make a big fuss when we were pulling into Fallujah that time?
She did.
no. We were driving through that town at night, and there's tracers coming across the road from red and green tracers.
Friendly or foe?
Well, it was actually celebratory fire.
Yeah, they weren't firing at us.
Yeah, it was celebratory fire.
That's a random shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, doing what Iraqis always do. But I mean, the gunfire was the gun smoke was really heavy in the air. I mean, it was like being on a range
Lovely.
with
I love
with
it.
the automatic weapons just rocking and rolling. Well, she's from a chemical company, and of course, she gets on the radio and starts screaming, "Gas, gas, gas!"
Oh, no.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
It wouldn't have mattered for us. All my Mach 4 gear was tucked away in the bottom of my truck. I told myself, if we get hit by anything that's going to get us, I'm just going to die because we ain't got the time or the effort or the inclination to want to have to deal with this
Well,
stuff every single day.
she was a staff sergeant, I think, at the time.
Mhm.
And it was asinine and pathetic that she didn't know what friggin' gunpowder smelled like.
Somewhat.
Right?
You would have
think.
thought.
Um,
That's embarrassing.
it was embarrassing.
That's good enough for government work.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, she was making more money than we were
But
over
I
there.
actually was
Don't
in
get
a
me
vehicle
going.
with the radio that night, and I just said it's
I saw that.
gunpowder. And she didn't say another friggin' word. But that's the night I almost hit a donkey too. Right as we were coming into that town, we were coming over a bridge, and down at the bottom of a bridge, a donkey ran out right in front of me at the bottom of the bridge, and I locked up the friggin' truck, and I almost pancaked that thing.
I punched a donkey once in southern Spain when I was
Punched?
very drunk. Well, it bit me. So I punched it and I broke my hand. But anyway, moving on swiftly.
It's,
How did you put yourself in a position to get bit by a donkey is the first question.
It's a donkey show.
It was Donkey Kong.
You get donkey punched.
O-face donkey punch. Remember that one?
Donkey punch, yeah.
Oh. I'll give that one to Bateman. That was one of his. We mentioned him on his show. That was one of his things. I want to hear more about the donkey.
I don't really recall a lot about it. I knew I was drinking it was up in this little mountain bar in the middle of Spain somewhere. And I'd staggered down the hill with my mate and got confronted with this donkey. And it bit me. So I was going to return the favour. because.
Because.
And I paid for it. Broke my hand.
He probably didn't blink an eye, did he?
Didn't even twitch. So don't punch donkeys, folks, is all I can tell you. You will lose. And they bite hard. Jeez.
Yeah, they'll draw blood.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He got hold of me good.
Oh, they'll get a hold of a coyote. I mean, they're
Well,
big.
that's why I've got a little donkey actually on our farm for the sheep. I mean, it's a guardian animal.
Yeah,
Meaner than a rattlesnake.
absolutely. They do their jobs. I mean,
Oh,
they're
yeah.
well equipped to do their jobs.
Well, I didn't know that at the time, did I?
No, you were just a sailor back then.
I was drunk as a lord.
But
You mentioned Bateman. There's one that all of us were a part of this story, and I remember this one very distinctly. They decided to send me home for 2 weeks, I think because you guys felt sorry for me because I was with McDaniel all the time. Or McDavid. McDavid, yeah. And so the SOP at the time was if you're going home for 2 weeks, you weren't supposed to go on a mission or something. Can you refresh my memory on that one? Like there was a reason you like 2 or 3 days or a week
So
before.
you wouldn't miss your flight.
Yeah, that's what it was, right? So I remember this. Everybody was a part of this, and you can clarify more, Doug, on this story. There was when we left what's Anaconda. There was a time frame that you had to leave in a certain time of day. If you missed that time frame, you weren't allowed to leave the base.
Okay.
And I remember this day, we were slotted to leave first out of the base. Well, because I was going home, who was it that always had liver infections and he pissed in my boots? Who was that old guy?
Jones?
Might have been Jones. Yeah, Jones. So Jones had pissed on my boots and got sick the night before. And so you came up to me, Doug.
It's on or in your boot?
Around it. Like he,
Oh, okay,
So
okay.
it was like in a Connex, and so he pissed. And so we
Just
were
making sure.
talking a different story of how he pissed on my boots.
Roger
Jones
that.
was the one who passed out in the middle of
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
probably drunk as a skunk when
So
he did it.
Jones was, well, we all know that he was drunk. So you came to me and you were like, hey, we need you. And I'm like, hey, I'm your man. I didn't bother telling you that I was going to go home in 2 or 3 days. So my crap was everywhere. And we couldn't leave the base because I couldn't find my Kevlar or my helmet. I couldn't find it anywhere. And so all these convoys were passing us. I think you were with us too on this one. And everybody was just so mad at me. So I remember Bateman started just going off, and he got mad and went off, kind of veered off to the left or something, and ran through a bunch of concertina wire. Do you remember that? So that delayed us even more. And as all of these convoys were going by us, we were so afraid we weren't going to make that window to leave Anaconda. We finally did. I think we were the last convoy to leave that day. And then as we were leaving, I remember hearing on the SingGuard radio other units that had passed by us. Oh, we're getting hit. We're taking casualties. Do you remember that? And we decided, well, the heck with it. Let's just keep on going. And I think they were actually shooting at the birds that day as well. So we went to Scania. We made it there, and then they made everything black. You remember that? And somehow you found out. I don't even know how you found out. You said, I'm talking Doug. You said, you didn't tell me you were leaving for home in a couple of days. I said, yeah. And you said, we're going to get you home. I said, how is that? They're not even flying birds. And I was like, we can't even go anywhere. You know, we'll probably be stuck here for a few days because people were taking casualties. And now maybe you can shed light on the subject. You said 4 men were coming to get me. You remember that?
No, I don't. Sorry. So I had somebody come pick you up at Scania.
I'm sure it was. And I said, well, I'm just a specialist. I'm a nobody. I'm a gunner. I'm nobody, National Guard, whatever. And then, but they had actually left, and I don't remember who it was that actually had left Anaconda to come down to Scania. But then we got the all clear to go, and so they turned around. But that's stuff people don't hear in the news. You know, some of those stories that you were talking about the camaraderie earlier. But it was classic when Bateman ran over that concertina wire and just totally took that truck out of commission, and we had to leave it there because it was still stuck and it had all that wire wrapped around the tire. I remember that.
Well, you talk about camaraderie, and I want to say something about Doug. nobody in our platoon or our company would have received any awards if it wasn't for Doug.
Mm-hmm.
Because our company didn't submit any to battalion. And when he inquired about it with our company, didn't they tell you it was too late or they missed a deadline or something like that? So he went above the company's head and went straight to battalion. And they said, sure, we'll take awards. So I got to do, submit them. So he did. And while most of the people in the platoon and company got pretty good awards, the ones in our company, in our platoon that I think deserved the highest awards, got the lowest awards. And I'm talking about Doug and Glover.
Billy.
I got an Army Achievement Medal. You can get an Army Achievement Medal for jerking off properly at your 2 weeks AT. I mean, that is something they hand out like candy, and that's the only thing, for somebody that didn't, and I'm not tooting my own horn or anything, but I'm like, I didn't go home. I had 3 days of R&R in Qatar, which was rehab. It was, you go down there for 3 days, you'd have a 3-beer limit because they did have a bar on base, but you could only get 3 tickets. I think 3 tickets for $10, and we would just sell our tickets to other soldiers for like $50 a piece because they never got beer. And for us, we had a luscious supply of it. So it didn't matter. I didn't even sell mine. I gave them away. Just because I didn't want to profit off somebody else enjoying themselves. But you could have sold them tickets for $20, $30, $40 a beer, and at least a damn RCOM. At least an RCOM, I should have got at least for going on every single mission. I never went home. I didn't bitch out. And then you got, people in our upper brass that were going home with bronze stars. Why? Why did you get a bronze star? Doug Hurd should have got a damn bronze star over every single one of them people above us because they did nothing but screw things up.
Yeah, but this sounds like your E6 and platoon leader had just bailed on you.
Well, they did.
So they bailed on you. And unfortunately, that's how, these citations and acknowledgements get missed, So, that's just...
The entire company.
Absolute bloody shame.
It wasn't just our platoon, because in our platoon, our leadership did disappear. For all intents and purposes, we had no leadership.
Doug...
Well, we did, but I'm talking about senior leadership we were supposed to have.
Yeah.
That write these citations that start that whole administrative...
And Sergeant Hurd and Sergeant Glover, Doug, they did. But Doug got an AAM. Same thing you got.
So you should feel special, Billy.
Everything.
That is really all you got.
That's all he got.
Hey, didn't a certain female get one for giving a strip show in the tent?
Get a what?
An AAM.
I don't know anything about.
Well, everybody
got
something. I don't know if that's specifically what she got it for, but
there was a female in another platoon that got a bronze star when our first vehicle got hit with an IED because she was treating the 2 injured soldiers on ASR Sword in the middle of Baghdad. And she did go home early, but she did receive a Bronze Star for doing that.
I should have got something better than the AR for saving Willie P's life. Saving Siglowski's life. Because if you hung out with me over there, chances of you getting a Purple Heart were pretty high.
Yeah, Billy's a metal magnet.
I really was. I think, Himes, who was one of my good friends, got blowed up over there. Willie P got shot beside me, and then, of course, Siglowski got hit by shrapnel right in front of me. So if you hung out with me, chances were you were going to get hit. I was going to walk away fine. My worst injury over there was an ACL tear. But everybody else, if you were around me, chances are. But still, it's...
Took one for the team.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Billy.
Well, hey, that's what I'm here for. I'm here for my guys.
Well, I'm not quite sure I want to be a co-host anymore, mate. You're making me rather nervous, brother.
I do draw attention. But yeah, it's the way the whole system is portrayed is just they crap on us. They crap on the ones who actually go out there and do the work. But at the end of the day, I don't really care about the medals. I care about coming home alive, and all the respect I have for, Hurd and Bird over here for keeping us straight and in line, even despite all of our shenanigans. They knew our shenanigans, and he was able to adapt to those and turn us into
Stay close to
I
the
won't
wire.
say good soldiers, but soldiers that at least came home alive. So,
and that's something that it was very difficult to balance. With any organization, and the Army or the military is not much different. It was hard to take care of the guys, and I feel like that's one area that our company really let us down, was the accolades for all of the service that their soldiers did. The mileage and the trips, that's real. The 2-point-some million miles. No other unit did that over there, in the conditions that they did, and we really, as a unit, did not get recognized for that.
That's a bit of a slap in the face, considering the adversity you guys went through.
Well, part of that, and I'm going to retrograde back to what I mentioned earlier. We belonged to the unit in Kuwait. We were attached to the unit in Iraq that we fell under. So the unit that should have been taking care of us and acknowledging those things was the unit in Kuwait. They didn't know us because we were attached to the unit in Iraq the whole time. And the unit in Iraq, the colonel hated us with a passion.
why did he hate us, Bird?
Well, we embarrassed his friggin' troops all day long, every day.
We got busted with alcohol.
Every day.
But that same commander of that battalion that hated us, if he needed something done, we were the first ones he called.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, he even said when they left before we did, and in their final meeting, he said that we were his best and his worst unit that he'd ever had in his career. and he was correct. We created a lot of problems for the garrison type establishment.
Yeah, your boot
needed
shine.
You
something
don't
done.
want a garrison type bunch of hooligans when it comes to in country, getting shot at, getting popped at with IEDs. You do not want the garrison type in there. That's bullshit. I mean, it always has been. So at least he recognised that. It's a shame he couldn't, have the kahunas to acknowledge it and recognise it with accolades and so forth. I think that's pretty despicable.
Well, he did approve the awards that we submitted. He was the approval authority for those, but he didn't submit any unit awards for us for anything the unit did at all, or didn't forward anything to the battalion we belonged to in Kuwait for anything that we had done.
And once again, to put it into perspective, I don't know if you know what a man mile is, or if anybody listening, because I know we've got a ton of new listeners might not listen to some other shows, so I'm pretty sure we've touched on this, but a man mile is how many miles you travel by vehicle throughout the country. Mm-hmm. So we were going 300 miles essentially every single day. So 2 people in the truck at 600 man miles. And then the next day, another 600. The next day, back and forth. So every single soldier that accumulates. Our unit, by the time we left, I think had 2.4 million man miles of escorts and missions that we ran. The second company closest to us was, I think, 1 million miles behind us. And you're talking active duty Army
Over the same
people.
time frame.
Same time, you're talking about active duty people. You're talking about reservists, people a whole lot more qualified and equipped and probably better than us to do the jobs. And the closest is 1.4 million. And after we left, they significantly, and Pooh, you went there after us, they significantly decreased the amount of miles that people would travel because things started getting more intense. So nobody after us got nearly. I mean, right now you're sitting around a table with the most combat miles in the history of United States military war. Because there's nobody in Afghanistan that got that many miles because the terrain just wouldn't allow it. Vietnam, World War II, definitely same thing. You just don't have it. But it was us, and then after us, they significantly decreased because
Did they decrease because of the Iranian support and some of their more technologically advanced IEDs.
Yeah.
Because those Iranian sons of bitches did a number on us that we still haven't held them accountable for.
They
And-
started flying a lot of the, like the Class 9 supplies that we, hauled.
Right.
They started flying a lot of that stuff into the air bases. Al-Assad out west was really developed as an air base. Anaconda, like I said, was the biggest air base in central Iraq. It was huge and very developed. Bayat, Baghdad International Airport.
So airlifting it was probably, I say probably, I wasn't there, was probably the safer way to airlift it.
It was definitely the safest way. I don't know.
Whether it was efficient,
Yeah, I don't know if it was as
Probably
efficient
not.
or not,
probably not.
but it was definitely safer.
I mean, think about the maintenance on the aircraft and the conditions they were flying in. So the maintenance time on those aircraft in those conditions would have been horrendous. So it probably wasn't an efficient way of doing it. But I still think the Iranians and how those sons of bitches started
Yeah.
upsetting the balance when it comes to some of their IED technology that we have not held those accountable for. We will one day, I hope.
Well,
I
yeah,
agree. I hope we do.
well, in essence, at some point in time when you're over there and you see kind of what's going on, you almost can't even blame them. You know what I mean? I mean, they were just opportunists just like anybody else was. And, a big part of Iraq was Shia Muslim, which, Iran is a majority of, and their people have been oppressed for years and years under Saddam. So, I mean, it was all opportunity for them. But, for us, though, at the end of the day, 1 million more than any active duty unit. And nobody knows a thing about us. They didn't they end up writing military doctrine about, like, we essentially, like,
Road
our
warriors.
units. Yeah, they eventually, wrote, how to run convoy missions based off of the things we did. They went back and studied all of our tactics or whatever.
Right.
And as backwards as they were,
They worked.
they worked. So,
Yeah, the 181 Trans wrote the manual on convoy operations and asymmetric warfare, and it's called Road Warriors. That's what the U.S. Army teaches.
based off of our unit.
They're all right on.
And we were also the unit that forced the military to start sending soldiers getting deployed from the National Guard and reserves to the middle of nowhere, because sending them to Virginia Beach obviously wasn't the brightest idea with all the alcohol and titty bars lying around the area. But, the good and the bad, it comes with it. But yeah, I mean, I really hope people can put that in perspective, that how much we worked over there. And regardless of the lack of decorum we showed as soldiers, we somehow led the charge, and it made no sense at all, because we were just a bunch of F-ups, really.
It's the Appalachian way, brother.
It's all it was. So, yeah, I mean, everybody at this table deserves the utmost amount of respect, and they'll never get it, because, the active duty guys, they like puffing out their chests and talking about how great they are at everything, but we were really the ones getting it done. We're telling stories about our craziest times over there. For me, and I don't know if you talked about this on the show before, but I don't know how many people were with us that day, but it was towards the end of the war, our time over there, and we were leaving Al-Assad, headed back towards Balad. And somebody had the bright idea that, hey, let's just haul a flatbed truck front to back full of 155 tank rounds.
I was driving it.
I was in that truck. And it was me and Jones were in one of them.
What?
We were going from Al-Assad Air Base through the Sunni Triangle back to Balad with a flatbed truck front to back full of 155, and they didn't even bother to tarp it.
Nope.
Didn't even bother to
Double
tarp
stacked.
it. Double stacked.
It wasn't just one pallet. They were double stacked.
It was pretty obvious what it was.
You know where they
Munitions.
came from? Radford Army Arsenal.
Just down the road.
30 miles from where I lived
Yep.
in Indian Valley, Virginia.
So one RPG to my truck or birds that day, and they'd have been picking up our body parts from Israel.
I told Glover that morning. I said, "Don't stop. If you guys stop, I'm not." The only solace I had that day if something hit the truck, I wouldn't have known it.
Where did that order come from?
Well, they needed ammo. Well, I'll tell you what happened. The fire we were taking at the base, they brought in 3 Paladins, which are 155 millimeter self-propelled artillery that the Ukrainians are using right now to kick the Russians' ass. They brought them into Anaconda, and they were counter battery firing the Iraqis that were shooting at us.
Okay.
So they needed the 155 ammo for the Paladins. And when we got back to Anaconda, the friggin' ammo point was closed. So now we got a trailer full of friggin' munitions we can't even put anywhere.
What happened to airlifting that shit?
Well, why airlift it when you got a bunch of slack jaws that'll just drive it on a tractor trailer going through the middle of
I mean, that therein lies the question. What happened to airlifting it?
I'm pretty sure that was the only day that we got air support. Was that correct, Bird? I remember a bird being over top of us and following the convoy, at least from about Tikrit back to Balad. We had like a little bird that was following. That's the only day we ever had.
Yeah, from the, was it 3rd ACR out there?
Yeah. So
All it took was one RPG, right?
That's
it
it.
probably wouldn't even
Little
took that.
bird wouldn't stop an RPG.
You know, I'm not a gun bunny, so I don't know how much of the propellant is needed or how much explosive is actually in the warhead or what is needed to detonate the warhead. All I know, there was a ton of high explosives on the back of that friggin' trailer.
Damn. I think I'd have shit my pants.
Oh, I about did that. Jones just looked at me. He's like, well, you ready? I said, I reckon so. Do I got a choice? He said, nope. And he was right in there with me. And then I guess you and whoever.
I had a load. My truck was done. I was all happy. Now, Bird, you got to unload the friggin' truck.
Yeah, I mean, the things they put us through, the things they ask of us, the things they had. I mean, I'm glad we're on here being able to tell these stories because I don't think anybody would ever believe them. I mean, the incompetence.
Remember, well, I may have told this story before. It was like a 30-foot metal rod, probably half-inch metal rod. Friggin' Anaconda, right? This thing's got to get to Al-Assad. I'm supposed to have the day off, right? So we go to the point to pick up our loads. So all the trucks they requested, everybody's got their loads. I'm like, great, I'm the next truck. I'm going to have the day off. Nope, we got to get this rod out to Al-Assad. Son of a bitch. So I friggin' hook up to the load. The only thing on this trailer is this stupid rod. So I drive the rod in the convoy all the way out to Al-Assad. I drop they unload said rod at Al-Assad.
I dread to think what this rod is used for, but you're going to
I
tell
have
us.
no idea. Somebody ordered it at Al-Assad. I don't know what it's used for, but somebody ordered it. Came back to Anaconda. Next time we went to Al-Assad, guess what we brought back?
The rod.
The rod.
Same damn rod.
Because nobody wanted a rod at Al-Assad.
No one claimed that purchase order, right?
So they
Sons of bitches.
put 4 people
I mean, in
lives
harm's
at
way.
risk.
In harm's way.
to haul this stupid rod halfway across Iraq and back again because they didn't know what the hell to do with it.
Wow.
You know what I'd have done with it? We're in a desert. Bury it.
Yeah. It fell off.
Oh.
Sorry.
How many days did we just haul garbage up the road? Literally used tires. You would be hauling. Some days.
Tank tracks.
Some days we would go all the way down to
A
Kuwait.
lot of tank tracks.
Halfway to Kuwait. We'd go to Little Air Force Base on missions. We'd be completely empty. We'd get all the way down there, and we'd meet those people, and they would have empty trailers to swap off, and we would go back through the country empty. Just driving back and forth. I mean, that's the coordination.
This is basic logistics.
They couldn't coordinate. They couldn't. I mean, because that was a mission every day, but nobody could coordinate and say, "Hey, we don't have anything this day. Hey, we don't have anything this day. Y'all take the day off." Nope. Let's drive through the country barehanded, and let's pray to God we don't end up getting blown the hell up.
They sent us down to Lille on July 4th, knowing damn well that the 629th wasn't coming up from Kuwait on July 4th, and there wouldn't be a load for us there. So we went down there and sat out in the middle of the friggin' desert on July 4th with nothing. Literally sitting in the middle of the desert, waiting on loads that weren't going to come, and they knew damn well they weren't going to come when they sent us.
Wow.
But that's when we went to Ur. Didn't we go to Ur then?
Hey, if you
That
guys,
may have been the day we went to Ur.
Have you guys got any stories about these damn camel spiders that I keep hearing about?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Didn't one bite you?
Yes. I'm pretty sure something bit me. Something bit me. It was right at the very beginning, and we had just gotten to that tank base. I don't know, Diwania, maybe? Yeah, we got to this tank base.
Yeah.
And
This was in the heart of fighting. I remember.
yeah, I mean, this was still when
Yeah,
the war
they're
was still
still-
technically going on.
Yeah.
And I ended up sleeping in my truck, whatever. It was very uncomfortable. And I couldn't sleep very well, and I just kept having these dreams that I had a big old dip in my lip. I couldn't figure out why. I was like, why in the hell am I dreaming? I don't have a dip in my lip. And finally, when I woke up the next day, my lip was 3 times the size of what it normally should be. And I guess a camel spider had bitten me, and it was swollen up. And I went up, I remember the 82nd was there. I went to their medics. I was like, look at this. He's like, what do you want me to do about it? I said, you're a medic. Do something. You know what I mean? You should be equipped for this kind of, you're the 82nd Airborne. Do something. And I don't even think they gave me a damn thing for it. And, eventually, just
So how much bigger did your lip get?
about 3 times its
About 3
normal
times.
size.
Man, I bet you wish that thing
it was
had bit
like
you in the
out
dick there.
Then I wouldn't have been able to lift it.
But
I would have been combat ineffective.
well,
been
actually,
combat
maybe
ineffective.
very effective.
We were pitching tents at Anaconda. We just got there, and we had the light on so we could see on the inside. It was nighttime, and I remember one of the camel spiders latched on to one of the nets, and that was the biggest spider that I had ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard some horror
ugly.
stories about those damn things. Not good. Not good.
Yeah, I mean, we also dug our own sandbags. We also loaded our own sandbags. We did everything. I remember about 9 months after being there, we started driving around Middle Post, and there was all these tents that were beautifully put up. The sandbags were beautifully put up in front of them, air conditioned and everything. I'm like, who in the hell is those tents? The Air Force. Well, where are they at? Oh, they're coming in a couple of weeks. Well, who in the hell did all this stuff for them? Oh, Iraqis. I'm like, been nice for us when we had to go put up all our tents and dig our own sandbags and we did everything.
They wouldn't let us in their chow hall because we were too dirty, right?
Yeah.
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 And they got extra pay for having to live in subsidiary
Oh, yeah.
Substandard
living
conditions.
conditions.
Oh, man.
Fucking Air
And
Force.
we
And we
used to
were living in
climb
that every day.
planes on our sandbags instead of just trying to fill it.
I'm surprised a raiding party didn't go out because
Our colonel, the battalion commander, thought that was the greatest invention under the sun, an inclined plane used to fill sandbags with.
oh dear Lord.
I mean, we did the entire company area in, a day and a half?
Yeah.
And, he had his people at the battalion working for a week, and they still hadn't been done. Can I have one of these? Sure. Have at it.
Yeah, I mean, we were very resilient. We were very resourceful. That's the greatest thing about us. Like somebody mentioned earlier, you have, truck drivers, you have electricians, you have, country boys, hillbillies, people that know how to survive. And we had internet long before anybody else in Iraq had it. Why? Because we made friends with the
contractors.
Yeah, the contractors who actually had internet, and they said, hey, hook us up, we'll hook you up. So we had a couple internet tents we could actually
Fair
email
trade
back
on the
home.
reservation, Kimasabi.
Yeah, we bring them booze, and they'd hook
yeah.
us up with the internet. So, I mean, we found ways to win. We found ways every single day to figure it out, to make sure we came home, to make sure that that the Iraqis didn't mess with
I'm
us.
surprised you didn't steal more.
Who says we didn't?
Well, I'm just,
We
trying to
were
figure this
accused
out
of
because
that.
I'd have
It wasn't
robbed
stealing,
them.
it was reappropriating military equipment.
Yes,
it
it was
belonged to the Army, and it stayed
Absolutely.
with the Army.
it was redistribution.
I mean, was it passing across Air Force, Army, Marine, whatever lines? Oh, dear.
It belonged to the Army.
it's still
and
government
and it
property, right?
stayed with the Army.
Government property.
Look, those red coolers all fell off the back of the truck. We have no idea what happened to them. What happened to
Couple of laptops fell, too.
I swore one day I thought we were going under a bridge in Baghdad, and kind of like how you go on the bridge here in the States, but for some reason this one had a dip, so you almost a tunnel, so you go down and then you go straight and then you go back up, but there was a bridge overhead, and we all for some reason stopped in the middle of this. I mean, it was an ambush zone. I mean, exactly what it was. And I
They
see.
used to throw cinder blocks on us.
Oh yeah,
That
cinder
thing.
blocks,
Oh,
bricks,
charming.
everything through there. And we were sitting down there, just sitting targets. And I looked ahead of us, and there was a truck on fire. I was like, "Holy shit, we've been hit! We've been hit by an IED."
Yeah, we all thought that. They
Well, yeah, we're an IED.
Yeah.
Let's all, we got to jump. I mean, we're in trouble because they've all got the high ground. We're down in a
Yep.
bowl. We are screwed. And somebody's already fired an RPG ahead. There's a pallet on fire. Bird, why was that pallet on fire?
Well,
First off, tell
you
what he
know,
was hauling.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, we need to
that-
find out what the pallet was
Well,
first.
yeah,
though.
there was a pallet of DVD players on the back of that truck for the AFI's, store to sell.
Which was a PX essentially.
Yeah, which is the exchange for the store to sell. Also on that truck was a pallet of batteries. So our theory is that the batteries overheated and started to fire because
Plausible.
because every fire extinguisher in the convoy was used trying to control the fire. Couldn't put the fire
It's a
out.
lithium fire.
To save the vehicles, they had to push the pallet of DVD players off the vehicle and into the middle of the road in the middle of Baghdad.
In Baghdad. Yep.
So, convoy proceeds on to Anaconda. Once again, we're accused of stealing something that we didn't steal. And this time we actually had proof that we didn't steal it because we'd taken pictures of the shit on fire. The stuff on fire that we had to push off into the road so it didn't burn the truck down.
I'm beginning to see a common thread here. I'm kind of digging the way the 1032nd took care of business.
Well, there was. Do you want like the true story?
Well,
I believe it's about to come out.
there is an addendum.
There was actually a fire, and Billy had alluded to this earlier. We had the center of our cabs out, and so we had soldiers up out of the center of the truck. And that was a bad area, so our soldiers were up there. And I'm going to tell on Sergeant Jones a little bit. He was actually smoking a cigarette when he was up out of the turret that actually went back into the cardboard box that was holding the material, which initiated the fire.
I'm sure it was a lithium Class D fire. I'm convinced of it already.
Right, yeah.
To be
That was
fair.
that was the official story.
To be
And-
fair, it was
Quite right.
110 that day, right?
I mean, it may have self-combusted.
It could have.
The irony of it is, Doug and I were in a truck one day, and one of the coolers that had fallen off the truck in front of us, we had rescued and we'd put in the cab of our truck. And
Very studious.
yeah,
Rescued.
yes.
I like the way you put that.
So we were putting ice in said cooler before we left to go.
What
on
was
a
in the
mission.
cooler, by the way, that enforced you to put ice in it?
Just water.
Oh, okay, I see. Just checking.
With Crystal Light in it, or maybe something
I was
like that.
I was with him, so it was just water.
I'm just checking.
They did all that other stuff when I wasn't around.
But I may have thrown the plastic bag from the ice bag out the top of the turret when we started leaving, right?
They call that littering here in Virginia.
Well, it's Iraq, so it really doesn't count. And
The whole place was trash.
we're driving to Scandia, and we're almost to Scandia, which is the big fuel point halfway to where we're going. And we're slowing down, and all of a sudden, there's this big explosion right behind the cab. I mean, it was loud. Boom! And we look at each other. It's like, what the heck was that?
Whilst Billy's looking for an entry wound.
What, Billy's looking for an entry wound? I like the. It's like, did somebody just shoot at us or something? And we're looking at the trucks in front of us, the truck behind. Nobody's acting like anything's out of the ordinary, right? It's like, what the heck is that? And I look in my mirror,
In a war zone.
and the friggin' air intake on my truck is bouncing down the side of the road. So you might guess where said plastic bag ended up.
I know where it ended up.
Yes, yeah.
Good job. I mean, 1 in a million, right? You
Well,
couldn't do that again if you
No,
tried.
I couldn't. But being the resourceful individual that I was.
You lied through your teeth.
No. Well, I did something better. When we were in Scania at the fuel point, it was about a half-hour wait to get fuel. I found another broke down FMTV while we were there, and I swapped our air intake for that air intake and put it back on. Put the good air intake on our truck.
Robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Well, but, you know, I had to keep our vehicle mission capable.
Oh, that's commendable. I'm surprised you didn't get a medal.
Right? Why didn't you put me in for a medal for that, Doug?
I'll tell you another, if we got time, I'll tell you another funny story. And I can't remember if y'all talked about this or not, but I'm not really telling on myself because I still blame Glover for this. But as with any company, you always have interplatoon rivalries. You know, first platoon, you know, was kind of like the prima donnas, and second platoon was just mean, and third platoon was the misfits.
Yeah, that was
Red-headed
us. We were
stepchild.
third.
Yeah, we were the misfits, but we always, like any family, if we were attacked from outside, they all had our back.
All for one.
Yeah, they all had
One
our
for
back,
all.
But when we were interacting with each other, when we were going back and forth to Toledo Air Base, there was a 6-lane road similar to 581 from Kuwait all the way to Syria, except for like a 30-mile section outside of Toledo, between Toledo and Baghdad. That 30-mile section, I don't know if they forgot to build the road or what, but it was not developed at all, and it was like going on a dirt path.
That's all it was.
Have y'all talked about this before?
No, never.
That is
this is
how the
good.
Republican
This is a good
Guard
one.
escaped in Desert Storm, by the way.
Okay.
Up
So
that track.
anyway, that whole 30-mile stretch was just, it was basically hell on earth.
Undeveloped. It
because
was literally nothing but desert, and you know,
So we would always bypass that on our way to Toledo and take some of the one loads through Dewanya and some of those other.
it was
places.
actually it was much safer to go that route technically, but
So we would always meet the platoons. Platoons when they would alternate. So first platoon would go spend the night, second platoon would go, and then third platoon would go. So we would meet each other at Scania. And we would always, second platoon that morning was at Scania way early, you know. And so we knew the road wasn't finished, but second platoon and Head, I'll blame Head for this too, they had gotten there way early. And so they went up to Glover, and Glover's like, man, how'd y'all get here so early? Oh, they paved that road, man. It's good.
I remember that. Yeah.
It's good. You know, they and I tried to tell Glover there is no way that they paved that road. But he wouldn't listen. So we didn't take it on the way down. But on the way back, when we were fully loaded with stuff, Glover decided he wanted to take that road. And I tried my best to talk him out of it. We took it, and we lost 3/4 of our cargo going through. I mean, it was like going through a massive sandstorm through bumps. And I mean, you would look at the trailer in front of you, and half the stuff would be gone by the time we got out of that thing. But that was terrible. And second platoon got one over on us that time.
And
Oh, they got you good.
oh yeah,
Bastards.
I'm pretty sure that's the mission that they fired the RPG at us right when we came out the other end too, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Did that one hit my trailer?
I don't remember. I remember friggin' Seymour talking about
Did you get a medal for it?
No, I got chewed out for it because I had headphones in, and I remember a Hummer coming up beside us and screaming at us, and y'all just got hit by an RPG, and me and Siggy
Probably
had
a ball cap
headphones
on
in.
too.
I mean, it was so bumpy. I mean, it just, you hated it. Your cooler was jumping up and down, beer getting,
Just
flat.
frothy.
I mean, just destroying everything.
You couldn't open a decent can of beer?
No, absolutely.
Oh,
It was
for
just- it
goodness
was
sake.
terrible.
This bloody uncivilized
But it was
savages.
safe. And you want to talk, I mean, the middle of nowhere. You want to talk about the most desolate place on earth. You're going through there, and there's no towns through there. It is
And they're
just
shooting at you.
miles and miles of sand dune. No, not there, just when we got back on the hard top. But through there,
right at D1E where we normally bought beer.
there was nothing out there. I mean, the most desolate place you could think of, nothing but sand dunes as far as the eye could see. But somehow,
All Lawrence of
Somehow-
Arabia shit, right?
absolutely, but somehow you drive through there, and at some point in time, there's people on the side of the road waving at you. Where in the hell they came from, I have no earthly idea. But they were out there waving at you.
Did they ever fix that? Or was it like that when you?
Yeah, they did actually fix it, and that was one of our major routes when we were going down south,
They actually
which was
did-
rare.
they did pave
They
that.
actually did pave the whole thing. Yeah.
Oh, that's American tax dollars at work right there, ladies and gentlemen.
That was actually the fastest that we would go.
Or,
from
or
one
was
place
it
to another.
second squad pulling your chain again?
You're gonna have to ask Pooh on that one because he was there.
81's not fixed, but Iraq. is gonna
Yeah,
break.
Daggone right. That's right.
Surprise.
Surprise, surprise.
You know, I remember one time, the only time I think the entire time we were there that I ever got a little bit nervous, and I just never did because I was young, dumb, and full of
Okay,
yeah.
moving on.
Rum.
Yeah. So I never got nervous and never got scared. You know, what was going to happen was going to happen. But one time, I remember we were just south of Baghdad, and I guess an IED had exploded ahead of time or whatever, and had stopped traffic. So we pull up, and there's two other military units in front of us, and they were like, you know, road shut down, IED, blah, blah, blah. So we all had to stop and then dismount, and we're sitting there on guardrails, you know, just securing the area or whatever. And all of a sudden over the radio, it comes that insurgents, Iraqis, or whatever are all over there kind of in the bush, and there's a crap load of them coming our way. We're getting ready to be for a fight. And we're all sitting there, and we're prepared. You're sweating, you're waiting, they're coming. We're getting ready to have a fight. And then the most beautiful sight you could ever imagine just shows up in the air. An Apache helicopter.
Oh yeah.
And I saw that helicopter fly in, and I just picked up my weapon. Somebody beside me said, "What the hell are you doing standing up?" I said, "Look at that right there." I went right back to my truck, kicked my feet up, and laid down. And that Apache just rained down mortal hell on whoever it was. I mean, you could watch him just coming down, you know, rockets, fire, everything. I said, we ain't got nothing to worry about anymore. That's the only time I really ever got to the least nervous.
Billy, I think you were with me that time. It was still during they were doing combat operations. Do you remember having that convoy brief before we went to Fallujah?
I never paid attention to any convoy briefs, but remind me.
So this was probably the best one that I had ever heard of. It was the Salty Dog Major from the 82nd. Were you with me at that on that one as well, Doug? Before they take Fallujah, the Salty Dog Major says, "Well, we're in it now." And he says, "Make sure there's only one story that's told, and that's yours." And I thought, well, you know, here we are out of our elements, and you're looking at airborne
Word
special
to
forces,
the boss.
Ranger tabs everywhere.
Oh,
you know,
triple
and-
canopy, right?
Yeah. Oh, it was great. Yep. It was great.
Nice.
Yeah, one thing I don't know if we've ever mentioned, we probably have mentioned on here before, but at the very beginning, you know, our first mission into Iraq, we go up and we stop at the Diwania tank facility, whatever, and it's pretty much the entire company. You're talking 1st, 2nd, and 3rd platoon. We're all there. We're all going up there. We stop at Diwania, and next thing you know, the next morning, the 82nd Airborne and the 101st Airborne, which are two of the most prominent, you know, divisions in the entire, you know, United States military history, they just start picking us apart. And they said, "You're coming with us. You're coming with us." They completely split us up and decimated us. We were no longer together. We didn't know if we would ever see each other again for the rest of the war, if we were going to be attached to them for the rest of the time. But we all got split up there for quite some time. You know, some of us went with the 82nd, some of us went with the 101st. And it was about a week and a half later that we finally made it to Fallujah, and somehow we all met back up. But-
Ramadi.
yeah, Ramadi. And we pulled into Ramadi, the people that I was with. I think there was probably 10 of us, 10 trucks, so there's probably 20 of us. And we pulled into Ramadi that day. We pulled on the side of the road, and next thing you know, you see 4 Black Hawk helicopters fly in, drop down, and shit ton of Special Forces guys just jump out and just start going and doing their thing. And
That first helicopter almost flew into the power line. If you remember, he stood that helicopter straight up in the air.
Stood it up.
Yeah, because he almost flew into the power line. He stood it up, flew it backwards, and lowered the nose down, and then landed.
That was nearly a no shit moment.
Yeah.
yeah,
We were like on a 50-yard line watching a friggin' football game.
yeah.
It
as
was
they're
very
attacking into
entertaining.
the town.
Yeah.
And before that, before we made it to that point in time, once we got split up, the next place that the people we were with stopped at was a chemical base where I'm pretty sure that they had hidden whatever that they had there that they hid was on that base. And we pull up into it, and there are still Iraqis coming off of it. You know, we got up in there, and we were the first ones to show up, and we just started walking around, and we were trophy hunting, but we had to clear every single building we went into. We found little, you know, things to send home. I've still got things at my house right now.
No, you haven't.
Chemical books. God
No,
knows,
you haven't.
God knows what's in them. Well, you know, they were at my house. I think they got lost in a boating accident.
Yeah, in the move.
But
Tragically.
you know, we didn't know what the hell was going on. So we get to this base, we're walking around, kicking in doors, finding places to take a shit. But my best memory of that one base we moved into was the football game. And this might be a good story to end it on, for this episode, but we had a flag football game out there with the 82nd Airborne. And you're talking about us ragtag, old, out of shape National Guard unit versus the probably best in shape unit in the world. I mean, you're talking the cream of the crop.
Airborne.
And we went out there and we played it was the closest, tightest football game you could ever imagine. And we actually should have won that game. The referee was an 82nd Airborne lieutenant, and that asshole ended up making a terrible call on one end that supported his dudes because they didn't want to lose. Our quarterback was, what's his name? Charles Bishop. This man was at this time probably 35 or 40 years old, and he was every bit as big as me, and he was our quarterback out there. I've got one picture of that. It was the greatest football game ever played. It was tight.
He's another former jarhead.
Yep. Actually, he got the sword, didn't he? Wasn't he presented the sword? I'm pretty sure he was the Marine. Y'all have that sword you use in all your commercials. The ones that are slaying dragons and shit to get all the damn chess players and band people to sign up for the Marines. That's the sword. But he got that, and he was our quarterback today. We had out of shape old people, young, and these are all 20, 21-year-old, just in shape people. And,
but cheating is
they
winning.
They cheated us to beat us
cheating is
that
winning.
game. We lost 2-1, but they cheated, and I just think back on that moment. I'm like, the entire world is going on about their business, and we are sitting here in the middle of Iraq with a war going on around us and managed to go out there and find time to play a flag football game, and it was the most fun, I think, that we had over there the entire time.
I'll tell you what, Billy, I think you can call it a moral victory.
No, it was a victory, not a moral victory. We beat them.
No, it was a victory because I got the chair from that stop.
Oh, yeah.
The chair.
Oh, the chair. Yep.
What was the chair? Remind me.
The chair that was on the back of my truck on every mission during the war. The chair came from that place, that chemical plant.
Really?
Yes, that's where it came from.
The crap chair.
Yes.
Remember, if you had to go to the bathroom.
Oh, the crap chair. Okay, yeah, that one. Okay, you could have just said the shit chair. We'd have been fine with that.
Well, I can't say that word. You told me I couldn't say that word. I didn't say that word.
I think we're way beyond that at this point.
Yeah.
I mean that. That's just one of the memories that I have that make me appreciate everything we had over there and appreciate, regardless of how crappy it was, how much we were crapped on, how much they just turned a blind eye to everything we did over there, showed us absolutely no respect. I can sit around this table right now and know that we made it. Know that these guys were here, that we had one hell of a time.
That's a brotherhood.
Yeah.
Each other's back.
Yeah, I can't thank these guys enough. I know I've given Casey hell for 20 years now, but this has literally been, we're approaching 20 years now. It feels like it was yesterday. It never escapes you. You think about it every single day. I actually had, I had a dream last night. I don't really remember my dreams very often, but last night I remember it. I was with my wife. We were sitting right in front of the Rocky Mountain Armory. And I saw a Southeastern truck up there making a delivery to the Army. I was like, what the hell's going on? They're getting ready to go to their 2 weeks or whatever. You know what I mean? And so I walk over there to the Armory, and I'm me. And I go in there and get talking to the guys. And I was like, where are y'all going? Oh, we're doing our AT at the Norfolk, Naval Base or whatever. I'm like, why in the hell they got y'all going to the Norfolk Naval Base? And so looking around at all these young guys, I'm like, is there anybody in this unit right now that was with us when we went 20 years ago? And might have been one. And then I remember Purdue showing up in my dream, and I went and punched him in the back, and he started complaining to me about, something. I don't know, but I was on the phone with my wife telling her what I was doing, and I'd been there for 6 hours just sitting around with these guys. I'm fortunate because I don't have nightmares or dreams of the combat. I don't have nightmares or dreams about getting shot up or anything like that. All mine are deployment. It's like, the pre-mobs and stuff. It's like, oh, we're going back again. We're going back again every single time. It's weird. I can't really explain it, but, I still have the dreams all the times. And a lot of times that takes you back. It reminds you when you wake up of just what you had. And, I love these guys to death. I'm so thrilled that we have this platform to come on here and have these guys show up and tell these stories because they need to be shared. I mean, I don't think anybody can appreciate or understand, how we managed to make it. So
We don't understand how we managed to make it.
not really. And I'm sure we forgot about some stories, but we're going to have more. This being our New Year's special, before we get off here, does anybody remember the New Year's we spent? Was anybody there? You had to have
That was in
been.
Baghdad Airport, wasn't it?
Was that the night of the big friggin'
Probably too
Party.
drunk to remember.
yeah, with the broken ankle and everything?
You know what?
Oh yeah.
I don't know. All I
don't
know
think
is
there
there was a lot of liquor involved, and there's a lot of partying, a lot of
think you're right.
singing.
I think that there was a broken leg involved in that one at some point.
Yeah, I think I was an early casualty of that event.
Yes, you were.
Yeah, I was in bed, done for the evening, way before any of the major shenanigans occurred.
We weren't. We had an absolute ball. I'm going to tell you the most liquor you could possibly think of. And this is we were on center post too. This is
Yeah,
when we
that's
really
right.
could have got busted for
Oh,
this
yeah.
stuff. But I mean, what are you going to do? What? I guess our mindset was, what are you going to do to us?
Send us to Iraq.
What could you possibly do to us? Punish us in this Iraq?
Exactly.
What are you going to do?
I'm going to send you home.
Or I guess you could be Quisenberry and
Crabtree.
Crabtree, and they force you to sit at the traffic circle on post and write people tickets.
Well, they did. All officers.
All officers, they wrote every single officer because they got caught without a seatbelt in Iraq.
Oh, fuck.
And the MPs, their punishment was to sit at the traffic circle and write tickets.
Oh, it didn't get any better. I got pulled over for kicking up too much sand in Kuwait.
Oh, you did?
Oh, in the middle of the desert. It was great. Yeah.
You're shitting me.
Nope.
I
That's why he pulled me over.
I got pulled over at Talil, right there in front of the exchange for a rolling stop. And
A California stop.
yeah, the
Was there a stop sign, dare I ask?
I have no idea.
I bet there wasn't.
It was an E7, and he was crawling my ass for this rolling stop. He wanted to know who I was with, so I gave him all of 629's information and kept on going.
Well,
Second platoon, right?
absolutely. Well, I tell you the reason I love Hurd so much, and this is the last story I'll say before we get off here because I know we're running late. This just goes to tell you that the camaraderie we had and how much respect we had for each other and how much lack of, pardon my language, how many, fucks we had to give, which was about
you go.
zero. We had run a mission to Talil, and this was one of the few days that we didn't get resupplied with alcohol. We didn't have any. And we get down there to Talil, and yeah, I mean, it was devastating. So we pull into Talil, and we stop, we dismount, we get everything ready to go. We start walking around like, daggone it, And the crap part about it is those freaking Italians had an ABC store on post, but they wouldn't allow us to use it. It was like, what are we talking about here? You know what I mean? So we get to Talil, and then finally we walk up to Hurd, and it was me, Saglowski, and Bricky. And we said, hey, we didn't get any booze on the way in here. We're going to drive back off post and go searching for it.
Quite right, too.
And Hurd, being our fearless leader, instead of saying, no, that's an absolutely ridiculously stupid idea, 3 of y'all going off post in the middle of a war zone is a suicide mission. He looks at us and says, well, make sure you take a squad automatic weapon with you. I mean, just as. So that's exactly what we did. We got back in our trucks. We took a saw, 2 M16s. We went back off post. We started driving around. We found somebody with alcohol, and we finally found him. And our protocol was, okay, we found the guy. Let's go negotiate with him. But the Air Force was patrolling the roads, and if they see you buying it, they're going to screw us. Mm-hmm. So one guy's out of the turret with a machine gun. One guy's down beside the driver's door with an M16. And he's the one buying, and then there's somebody else underneath the truck just banging a hammer against something metal. That way, if they come by here, what are you doing? Oh, we're just repairing something underneath the truck, and we got it good to go. Yep, breakdown. Go out there, we find our booze, come back on base, spread the cheer with everybody, and the trust you had for us, Hurd, is remarkable. But we sincerely, like, everybody here appreciates the hell out of you. And you ended up making, what, first sergeant before you retired?
Yes.
Well, you deserved more than that.
Well,
You
he,
really
made,
did.
he made master sergeant.
Is that above first sergeant?
Well, it's the same pay grade, but he doesn't have to babysit anybody anymore.
Yeah, the last.
Hallelujah.
Yeah,
It only took him 20 years to get there.
yeah. I was first sergeant for 5 years. In the last 3 years, I was a master sergeant, which was a whole lot less stressful than being a first sergeant. But I wouldn't trade any of it for the world.
No, you deserved every bit of it. You should have been fast tracked. You know, that's one thing about modern war that sucks. Is back in World War II, they give you field grade, field grade
field
promotions and stuff. He should have been an E7 walking out of Iraq for all he did. So
Back then, common sense mattered for something.
well, yeah, I mean, back then it did. Nowadays, it's hey, you got a college degree, you should be out here leading the way. Now you got a sauce in Baghdad, you shouldn't be leading shit. You go to battalion and leave us the hell alone.
And you can't read a map.
And that's what you did. Mm-hmm. We had one good officer that was a low-ranking officer. That was Lieutenant Bernard. Much respect for him because he threatened to resign his commission if they kept on sitting outside of base and giving us hell for not wearing our BDU tops. It's like, you're going to sit here. We're out there in the desert all day long. Yeah. So, that respect for Hurd, Casey, Special Ed, Pooh.
With my boot.
With my...
Oh, that's my boot.
I gotta bring it up.
Casey, I'm going to let you tell this one, Ian.
No, you tell better stories than me. Go ahead.
Do you remember this one?
Well, I was there. I remember the whole event.
We actually created a rap off of this. We made a song off of this.
You all were harassing me.
I had
so
to bring
damn
it up,
bad.
Pooh.
Yeah, that's true.
We were giving Pooh all kinds of hell one night over something. I can't even remember what it was. We're all sitting there watching TV or something, and it was Bateman. Bateman was giving him all kinds of shit about something. I don't remember what it was.
Like Billy said, Pooh is like the most innocent.
Yeah, he is. I mean, he is, very straight-laced, not cussing a lot, he's much better than the rest of us, to put it mildly. And we were in there watching TV at the time. I don't forgot how he got all in the uproar, but he pissed Pooh off enough to the point that he got so disheveled.
No, it was me. I was the one who pissed him off.
What did you do?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Whatever it was you and Bateman too combined.
Yeah,
I'm
we were
pretty
giving
sure.
him hell.
Yeah, and finally, Pooh, he just gets so disheveled. He's getting ready to throw back an insult, and he fumbles over his words, and he says, he just jumps up and in a frenzy said, "I'm gonna fuck you in the ass," and then the entire room goes silent for about 3 seconds, and then Pooh realizes what he said, and it didn't make sense, and then he says, "With my boot, son, with my boot."
You got to cover it.
So we created a rap after that. It was like, "With my boot, son, with my boot, with my boot, son, with my boot, only with my boot." We just gave each other. And actually, there is
I forgot all about that.
there's a cassette tape out there. Actually, it's probably the first ever podcast I did, where me and Casey sat around and we used a tape recorder and we taped off of movies. We used Hurd, McDavid, all of them, and y'all have heard it before. We'll listen to it again. Maybe one day I'll release it, but it was our first ever podcast. Yeah. We just sit there and we just screwed with everybody. We used movies and we kind of incorporated them into it, and we were pretending like we were asking our guys questions. And like with McDavid, we used Full Metal Jacket, and we would ask him questions, and we'd use Lee Emery, whatever off of that. Yeah. So
then we used what was his name?
Randy Quaid was Hurd. Yep. Yep. We used Independence Day.
That one. I haven't heard that one.
That needs releasing.
So before you shut this off, Billy, I've always had a ton of respect for people that serve. Never had the balls to do it myself. And when Billy got back from Iraq, I knew Billy a little bit before. When Billy came back, Billy wasn't the same Billy that left here. And probably every one of y'all can relate to that. You're coming back from something that you've never seen. You got to process it. So our friends, Billy's friends, my friends, we had mutual friends, circles. Well, man, Billy's different. Billy, and I was like, how can I judge? I have no idea what he just went through for the last year and a half or year. That's not on me. He wore out my damn couch cushions for the next year, laying on my couch. And I was fine with it.
We had the best parties. Mm-hmm. Monster Truck.
I was at a lot of those parties. That's how I met you. Yeah.
Monster trucked an S10. Come on.
Civilians, people that's never seen it, people that's never served, really have no way to relate to people that have served. And that's something I feel like that as somebody that's never served, I feel like we're duty bound to try more to understand what people have been through, what people have seen, instead of just being, I was carrying on life, while y'all were over there doing that stuff. But at the end of the day, I feel like that civilians should be more encompassing in what has to happen so I can sit here and have girls at my house every Wednesday through Sunday night. And I learned, God, this is going to hurt me. Through Billy, drug special ed into the picture.
Hold on. I thought earlier you said calling him that just hurt
That's
you.
why I said it's going to hurt me. But I learned that there was a brotherhood I didn't even know about. And I learned to appreciate it. I still think Billy's fucking crazy.
You're right.
Good analogy.
But, there has to be, I honestly feel like civilians should go out of their way to understand more what is the stuff that is given, the stuff that, is gave up by people that
The sacrifices
are not here for that Christmas, that New Year's, that birthday, because most people don't. Most people don't even take the time to think about it. And, to me, that part, that's just selfish shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did take he'd leave his motorcycles in the garage and I'd take him riding when he wasn't looking, all that fun. But, that's what, the closest that me and him have was born out of, he had went through stuff I didn't understand. And I was a damn Dunkard boy from Callaway. And, we were both in a world that, at that time, we were both in a world that we didn't understand. He'd came back from Iraq. I'd left the German Baptist Church, and it made me understand there's a lot of things that he had seen and was going through that I know nothing about in the same way. But two people that are talking to each other that don't understand what each other has been through, you can find, there's a whole lot to be found in that. And I had one granddaddy that served in World War II and one granddaddy that went to prison for refusing to go to war in World War II. But I feel like if everybody had more of an open mind to listen, to understand what the next person went through, it's so much better.
Yeah.
And the families as well. I wasn't married my first tour, but Emmette and Doug both were. And then my second tour, I was married as well. So you have to also think about the families and the slack that they had to pick up as well.
Oh, it's huge. Mm-hmm. It's absolutely huge.
Yeah, I could barely leave my wife for a day
scratched.
now with two kids.
Nobody thinks about that. Mm-hmm. You get a medal, wife taking care of a family, mm-hmm. or attempting to take care of a family. But nobody understands or nobody even thinks about the sacrifices that are really made. Mm-hmm. Y'all can all y'all all sit here and laugh about y'all's time over there. Thank God that you can. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, y'all did a lot of sacrificing, mm-hmm. and y'all's families. Mm-hmm. They were married. There was a lot of sacrifice there, mm-hmm. that I'll never understand. Mm-hmm. But I feel like I should attempt to try to understand. Mm. If I didn't have the balls to do it, then have the balls to try to do some understanding.
respect the flag.
Absolutely.
Well, you should, because I know we did bring every swinging dick home. That's true.
Do not kneel for the anthem.
We've lost quite a few
Can't
since
call a
then.
tuna can a swinging dick, Billy.
We've lost
Yeah,
quite a few
we-
since.
Especially third platoon. I mean, the
Yeah,
war
shout 'em
didn't
out real
stop
quick.
when we came home. We've lost several of our brothers have died because of drug addiction,
Suicide.
suicide,
Mhm.
just dealing. They never came home. Life never was right for them when they came home.
Name them
It
real
wasn't-
quick.
It wasn't right for their families.
Name
Or
'em
for
real-
them.
That's what I'm saying. It wasn't.
But if
right
they
for
would have had people around them that would have helped them cope, could it have been different?
that's what the difference is.
I mean, if I wouldn't have let Billy sleep, I mean, if I'd have thrown Billy off my couch, you know,
It would have made a world of difference in Billy.
and that is exactly what I'm saying.
The difference between people that can come back, in my experience, in the two wars that I've been in, the difference is the support that the soldiers get when they come home,
Or the lack thereof.
or the lack thereof. If there's a good support system at home, there may be struggles, but eventually they can pull through it. If that support's not there, it's really, really hard for them to come through the other side. You know, when
And
families break
that
up,
is something that hurts me a lot. That
A
hurts
little
my
bit of
heart.
compassion goes a long way.
I think a lot of doing what Billy's doing and letting people tell their stories is a good coping mechanism for veterans as well. And they may not be able to understand it because they weren't there, but let them tell their story. I think that's what I tell a lot of people that like helps me. I know for sure because I lost a guy in my second tour. Is just not necessarily talk about our feelings because as men we don't typically do that, right?
Yeah, we
but
do.
but at the same time,
don't.
right? But we don't. If you just let us talk and oh yeah, I remember when that happened. Remember when Pooh said this crazy thing. That helps me personally, just to get it out. And I'm not sure if vets are looking for an understanding, but just to listen. I think that would be.
yeah,
that's a good way to go.
I don't think we're looking for me personally. I'm not looking for an understanding.
Yeah.
Because I don't have these conversations when I'm not with people, like-minded people, or people that have experienced what I've experienced.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've been through years of treatment at the VA for PTSD, for anger management. What I do not like at the VA is group sessions, because you're dealing with people in a group that have uncommon experiences
Or have never left the wire.
or have never left the wire.
Yep.
And it's, you know, it's a world of difference.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can't bridge that gap. It's too hard.
Well,
At least it is for
you
me.
know, how does people like me create the atmosphere to ease that burden on people that have, you know, served and been abroad? Like, I mean, you know, what makes me a better listener? What makes me a better person to help people deal with what they've seen that I haven't?
Well, you know, and I don't know if any of us can really truly answer that. Pooh made a comment, you know, never left the wire. I think the biggest thing that civilians don't understand or can't relate to is, you know, you can have a traumatic event, you know, that scares you, or, you know, that may traumatize you. When you are in harm's way, or when you're deployed in harm's way, that traumatic event could happen at any second, at any time. And you have to prepare yourself for that every day, every minute. And when it's through a prolonged period of time with a group of individuals that you're sharing that same experience with, that's where that bond comes from, because it's not like we could have died at any second at any time. And we don't talk about that here, but that's the situation that we were in.
That's a reality.
And, and we faced that every second of every day while we were over there. When we went by the area that the IED just blew up, and then the next day there's 2, and then the next day there's 3. The next time you go through there, that's all you're thinking about is, are we number 4? And that is something that's hard to explain. And I think that's what changed, not just what you see, but just being in that environment. It changes you because, I know we went the first mortar attack, we were all jumping up and down, scared, running around, doing everything. The 50th mortar attack is like, it's either going to get us or it ain't, and so
I'm not even getting out of bed.
Yeah, you get,
That's
I don't
true.
want to say you get accustomed to it, but you prepare yourself for it. And then when you get back out of that environment, that's where the adjustment is hard to make. And you guys can comment on that.
It's hard when you're on top mentally, and then you come back here, and then things have passed. Time has passed, but for you, it stood still, and that's hard to cope and adapt when you've been on top, and now all of a sudden you're not saying you're on the bottom in life, but you've gone from that mindset of that warrior mentality to, oh, here I am. I got to worry about, do I have enough gas in my car? That's the biggest thing that you have to worry about
After
at that moment in
living
time.
on a 12-month, 16-month adrenaline rush.
Correct.
I mean, you're
Right.
you're literally living on an adrenaline rush,
Yep.
basically the entire time that you're there.
Where's my next beer going to come from?
And then you come back to life.
Well, it's a brotherhood as well. So
And obviously, brotherhood. helps cope.
there's a lot behind that, and when that's broken, that's a support system in itself, and they're no longer there.
Well, the fact that
That's
we can,
where I think civilians have to, I'm friends with Billy. I'm friends with him. That's where I feel like that you have to step up and help fill in where you can. I feel like that's where I'm obligated.
Well, we're very fortunate, being a National Guard unit. We all live relatively close to each other or grew up relatively close to each other. So it's fairly easy for us to stay in contact with each other. So it's not that hard to reach out and, meet up, have lunch, do dinner, whatever. And that's a tremendous advantage. Active duty people don't have that.
No, they're scattered across the winds,
they're
aren't
all,
they?
They're all over the place.
You don't know where they are.
And I'll tell you, it got so bad for me that even within the military, if you didn't have a combat patch on, I didn't give a crap what you said because you didn't have a combat patch. You didn't go through what I went through. And, I know that was bad of me, but that was almost my attitude when I came back.
Well, it's a mentality you have to take. I feel like.
When I went to,
You earned
I
it.
forget one of the leadership schools I went to. I'd been to 2 wars, and there wasn't an instructor in a friggin' school that had a combat patch. What are you guys going to teach me? I don't want to hear it. Tell me what I have to do, report, let me get the hell out of here.
Well, it's not that you were better than they were.
No,
but
no,
it's
but
the experience.
But you
Yeah.
understood you had seen things.
Well,
They can't relate.
The thing about, and this is a difference between the Army and the Marine Corps. In the Marine Corps, when you earn the title of Marine, they treat you like a Marine. When you go to a school in the Marine Corps, they treat you like a Marine. It doesn't matter what the school is; they give you the respect of being a Marine. Every school you go to that I've been into in the Army, with the exception of advanced leader course or senior leader course, then they started treating you like an NCO. Everything below that, you were just like a friggin' PFC again. They treated you like a piece of shit. You know, who the fuck do you think you are? You know, you haven't been anywhere or done anything. I don't want to hear anything from you. You can't tell me crap.
Right.
You gotta go pound sand.
And that's still all a part of that.
And that's
struggle.
absolutely correct. And there's nothing I that you're saying there that doesn't strike a chord. You know, I mean, if you've been through it, you don't want some little shit telling you how to run your business, and that's a big fuck you, really.
And especially, you know, in my case, I've been to 2 damn wars.
Yeah. Don't tell me how to suck eggs.
Yeah.
Yeah, damn straight.
Well, I think one thing that Amos did for me coming home is he kind of kept the adrenaline going for me and kind of helped me wean off of it. You know, you come home and honestly, the worst thing you can possibly do is be in silence. You know, you think you want to get home, you want to be peace and quiet, that's what you want, but you get there and then your mind starts racing, you start thinking about things, you hear noises, you know, you wake up. You know, I remember one time being at Houston's right when we got back, I jumped out of bed real quick. I thought we'd just been more, I looked at Poop, he was like, what the hell are you doing? I said, I just heard an explosion.
Was that a mortar?
Just heard I did. I woke up from a sleep. But, you know, when I get home, instead of just going from straight to adrenaline to nothing, I started hanging out with Amos. And, you know, next thing I know, I'm wakeboarding in the docks and monster trucking vehicles. And that adrenaline's kind of going, but it's going steadily to, you know, it's going down. So I can kind of wean off of it. And that saved me.
Are you saying Amos put you on the straight and narrow?
Ain't no way.
Steady.
Could have went in many different directions, but it ended up working out in the end.
Good.
Yeah.
It did, because now we're sitting here 20 years later. We all can come back around. We can do a show like this, and it's therapeutic. You know, doing this podcast for me, even if it's not a show about Iraq, it's still therapeutic to do, to get out there and just talk to people, you know, because this is, you know, my next goal is to change the culture around here. You know, it's to make people believe that we have a chance. It's to make people understand that, you know, what's going on in the rest of the world doesn't have to affect us around here. If we stick together as a community, just like we did overseas, you can defeat all odds. And if a bunch of slack-jawed hillbillies from Southwest Virginia and South Central Virginia can all come together and manage to make it in the worst conditions possible with the most man miles in the history of the military, then I think we can figure out a way around here to all team together and come on the other side of this, at least not completely covered in shit. So, you know, I love these moments. I love them. I hope, you know, that my kids can come back and listen to these shows some days and kind of get an idea of the things we went through and the people that affected our lives. And I appreciate the hell out of these guys showing up here tonight for the show. You know, I would not be here if it wasn't for these guys. Every single one of them for different reasons. You know, Hurd should not have had to shoulder the responsibilities he did. Bird was right there beside him as an E4, should not have had to shoulder the responsibilities he did. But they did, and for that, we're better people, and we've all somehow managed to find a way to succeed in life. And for the guys, you know, that are struggling, we're still there for them, and we'll still be there if they need they need somebody to call, talk to, whatever the case may be, because we have lost a handful of them. And I want to say their names. Bird, can you just list them off, because they deserve recognition too, the ones we've lost since.
Sergeant First Class Dowd, Sergeant Baker, Staff Sergeant Quisenberry,
Cope.
Sergeant Cope.
Sergeant McKnight, Corporal Barry Pickett, I deployed with in the first call for. They're all people that I knew and served with that either, you know, committed suicide or died of ailments or chemical issues because of deployments and broken families and you know, they just didn't have the support when they came home that they needed.
Tragic.
You know, and I loved them all like brothers. I'd have given them a right arm had they asked for it.
I can still see Baker right now cracking open a beer, driving a mission.
What could possibly go wrong?
It's like, well, time to drink a beer as we're driving through the middle of the daggone desert. Well, it's nice and cool, and it's refreshing.
Wasn't it him and Bricky? I think Bricky told me the story. They were getting shot at one day, and Bricky was driving, and Baker was up in the turret, and Bricky was like, "Are we getting shot at?" He cracked open a Coke, and he's like, "Yeah, I reckon."
Yeah.
And then just kept drinking his Coke.
Time to drink a beer, I reckon. So, we'll go ahead and get off here. I know we've ran this one really long, but these are kind of how these go for everybody listening, because, you know, we don't have these opportunities very often, you know, for all of us to get together and have this. We want to try and get in as much as we can. So, Pooh, Special Ed, Hurd, Bird, Simon, Amos, thank y'all so very much for being a part of this, for letting us tell our story.
No, thank y'all.
For giving us an opportunity.
No, thank you.
I honestly can't wait to do it again. I think maybe, you know, we like doing these Iraq episodes every few months. I'm thinking maybe we should try and circle in a few more people maybe and come back in April and do it again, because April will be the 20-year anniversary. And maybe we can get Bricky on here and get some of these guys in here to talk about this. So.
We're only about 3 weeks short of the ambush anniversary.
Yeah, that was January 14th. 15th.
And also about 3 weeks short of Desert Storm, when we went in when the Desert Storm started.
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually did a show last year commemorating the ambush on that day. That's the day we all had people show up, and that was a good show. It was called The Longest Mile in Iraq. So if you haven't listened to that one yet, go back and listen to it. That's from about a year ago. So anybody else got anything they'd like to end with?
I'll raise your glass to the 1032nd and 3rd Platoon.
We'll absolutely do
As
that.
you were, carry on.
So for everybody out there, thank you so very much for listening. We hope you enjoyed this. Our Patreon page, it's a great way to support us. If you haven't did it yet, it's Get On Tap. No, it's patreon.com/GetOnTap, $3 a month. You're going to get this show early, a few days before it's released. Any other show we've got, I know a couple of the guys in here are on Patreon. I know Bird and Pooh both support us. Every little bit helps. Every dollar helps. Anytime you can give us an opportunity to come on and tell these stories, we certainly appreciate it. So, spread that and tell people. Once again, tell people. Word of mouth is the greatest promotion you can do. Say, hey, man, this is a great show. Listen to this. Because we'll have these stories. We have stories like with Tyler last week. We're just all over the place, you know. And Simon, I certainly appreciate you being here for this one. I wish you could have been here for the other Iraq ones, because you bring such a unique perspective to this show. So I certainly appreciate the hell out of you being a part of this as well.
This is my pleasure.
And we will definitely do this again at some point in time, because there's still so many stories out there we haven't even scratched the surface on. So for everybody out there,
make it a reunion.
We have to. And April will be the 20 years. We need to make that one a big one. We might have guys having to rotate in and off the mics, but we can get a crowd in here and do it. So thank y'all so very much for everything. Gentlemen, take care.
I hang in there with a rowdy crowd. I drink too much and I laugh too loud. That's just me. That's how I'll always be. I roll my own every now and then. I love a good buzz with a few close friends. That's just me. That's how I'll always be. Won't hear me beg. I'm a bit too proud. I work my ass off with everything that I have. So let's take a drink. Baby, raise your glass. This is for the few country boys like me that we still have. I believe hard work won't go unseen. I'm a big fan of chasing your dreams. That's just me. That's how I'll always be. The road to the top, it ain't no easy climb. But if you love what you do, I believe you'll be fine. That's just me. That's how I'll always be. Won't hear me beg. I'm a bit too proud. I work my ass off with everything that I have. So let's take a drink.
best friends, but most of the time I don't listen to them. That's just me. That's how I'll always be. And I wait at the gates when it's my turn to fly, but I still raise hell until the day that I die. That's just me. That's how I'll always be. It won't hear me beg. I'm a bit too proud. I work my ass off for everything that I have. So let's take a drink. Baby, raise your glass. This is for the few country boys like me that we still